21 pence. Just don't miss out as lines close on the 26th of June.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Harwood. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on the 26th of June, Friday. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Akua.
And would you live next door to Crowber or next door to a migrant camp?
Well, look, I mean, I'm in a constituency that's had asylum hotels as well.
Happy, would you, with your children?
Look, I do understand, but look, we've got to put people somewhere.
More migrant barracks. 3 new army camps could be used to house thousands more migrants, and the Home Office has announced plans to expand their existing sites.
Well, here in Crowborough, the Home Office has announced that the site used to house asylum seekers will now be extended. Reaction from the ground here in Crowborough as residents say they're angered, they're in disbelief and they're worried for their safety.
Not fit for a king. Yes, the King and Queen will never live at Buckingham Palace, despite its £370 million refurbishment, as the monarch reveals his own £13 million tax bill.
Well, royal officials insist Buckingham Palace will still remain monarchy HQ, but what does the public think about their money being spent on a royal office rather than a royal home?
In other news, reckless early release. Thousands of killers, rapists and sex offenders are set to be free to tackle prison overcrowding, despite the government's original promise for tough safeguards in its early release scheme.
Tap dancing on ice. Yes, the furious Home Secretary warns Immigration Minister Mike Tapp she wants him sacked for writing an unauthorised article on as yet unannounced settlement policy. But so far the Prime Minister is keeping him in post.
The heat wave has sparked a huge wildfire in Derbyshire. Today, temperatures could hit 38 degrees, but is advice from politicians helping?
We're having COBRA meetings at the official level to monitor what's going on, give the appropriate advice.
Well, it's certainly very hot here. I'm in Hyde Park on the Serpentine on a pedalo because it's 33 degrees, and what better way to get a little bit of a breeze than on the lake. But Londoners have been telling me this city is just not equipped for the heat. Stay tuned to find out why.
Open it! Stay where you are!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer. Don't crash.
Yes, a van driver came to the rescue as he offered a lift to armed police officers chasing a fleeing suspect. Would you do the same?
That's, I don't know. I mean, I would do the same, obviously, to help the police out, because I think a lot of them do a sterling job, and I'd quite enjoy it. It'd be return of Nambo, like Rambo, but then I'd be, like, joining in on the action, so I love it. I think it's great. We should be helping the police, but then we should also be helping each other, I think, if there's a situation where that's required.
But, of course, this van driver didn't really know exactly what was going on. He saw an armed police officer running with a big gun towards him, and, I mean, he could have been driving towards a significant amount of danger. Let's take a little look at this hero driver who helped that Kent police officer.
Open it! Stay where you are!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer. Don't crash. Stop there. Don't move. Put your hands in your head. Sorry, mate. No worries. Cheers for your help. No problem.
Oh, this is right up my street.
Yeah.
Right up my... I love being able... You know, that's great. I think people should assist the police if they can. And I'm presuming that people would have... The guy in the van kind of would have worked out what was going on. Of course, the police officer then asking for him for assistance. That's how it should be if we can help the police.
But we want to meet the van driver.
We do.
We want to get him here at GB News and frankly thank him for all that he did. So if you know him, or indeed if you are him, if you're watching right now, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. gbviews@gbnews.uk. That email address, gbviews@gbnews.uk. We need to find that van man.
Let's find the van man. All right, send us your thoughts as ever in the usual way on Your Say. Scan the QR code as well on the screens. But first, let's get an update from Tatiana Sanchez with your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024 and 2025, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. Meanwhile, the King and Queen will not live at Buckingham Palace once the £370 million taxpayer-funded refurbishment work has been completed. The palace will continue to be the administrative headquarters of the monarchy, but the King's decided nearby Clarence House will remain his official home. The decision has been taken to allow greater public access to the landmark, officials say. A wildfire's broken out in Derbyshire amid the extreme heat wave. The service said about 990 acres of land was affected by the fire. That's Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service, also saying at present we're being supported by the Rapid Relief Team and have sufficient supplies to deal with the issue. Meanwhile, the UK may have experienced its warmest June night yet after a record temperature for the month of 36.7 degrees was recorded yesterday afternoon in Somerset. Meanwhile, a red heat alert is in place until 9 p.m. tonight. The Home Office is attempting to use more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house 3,750 asylum seekers if planning permission is granted. The government is also looking to extend the use of existing military sites in Crowborough and East Sussex until 2030 and Wethersfield and Essex beyond 2027. Shadow Illegal Immigration Minister Matt Vickers spoke to GB News.
The reality is moving these people around, whether it be in migrant hotels, whether it be in these former armed forces bases, whether it be in HMOs that are now springing up left, right and centre, that isn't solving the problem. The problem will only be solved when we start detaining and deporting people who arrive in this country illegally. We've now got a real plan in place to deliver that when Kemi gets into office, leaving the ECHR, enacting what was the Rwanda scheme of detaining and deporting those people who arrive illegally.
A government source has confirmed that the Home Secretary has asked the Prime Minister to sack Migration Minister Mike Tapp. Shabana Mahmood said he'd written an article she believed to be out of step with immigration policy. In doing so, he has broken collective responsibility and has breached the ministerial code. Now, is he threatening to leak sensitive documents? The Home Secretary has asked the Prime Minister to sack him. Mike Tapp posted on X today saying he won't be intimidated. Mr Tapp apparently penned an article without the boss's approval in which he demanded migrant care workers are given special exemptions from Mahmood's migration overhaul. A boy aged 14 has been charged with murder following the discovery of a female body in South Wales. The boy from the Gwent area was remanded in police custody and is appearing in court today. Police say he was arrested after the body was found in the Duthran area of Blaenau on Monday. The body wasn't formally identified, but police do believe it to be that of a girl, 14 years old, named only as Lily, who'd been missing. The government is providing £2 million to help the emergency response to 2 earthquakes which struck Venezuela on Wednesday. Rescuers are searching through rubble in a rush to save lives after the quakes have killed at least 235 people and injured over 4,000. At least 50,000 people are reported missing. And Serena Williams will make her return to Grand Slam tennis with a first-round match against Australian Maya Joint at Wimbledon this year. Having launched a comeback this month in doubles at the age of 44, it was announced last week that Williams had taken the final wildcard into the women's singles. The 23-time Grand Slam singles champion last played a singles match nearly 4 years ago at the US Open in what appeared to be her farewell to the sport. Those are the latest headlines. Here's a look at the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Pound will buy you $1.32 and €1.16. The price of gold is £3,062 and the FTSE 100 is at 10,460 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 minutes past midday, and the Home Office has revealed plans to use more former military barracks to house thousands of asylum seekers as it steams ahead with plans to close down migrant hotels.
Now, planning permission is being sought at sites in Bicester, in Oxfordshire, Barnham in Suffolk and Linton on Ouse in North Yorkshire as ministers seek to find space for 3,750 asylum seekers.
However, the plans are not without controversy. The Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, has already blasted the government for announcing the plans without outlining them in the House of Commons first. And local residents have raised concerns that could end up being outnumbered. They could be outnumbered by asylum seekers.
Well, let's speak to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who has all of the updates on this. Charlie, what more can you tell us?
Well, Nana and Tom, I can tell you that the local MP for Bicester, where I am now, Callum Miller, he also shares the frustration of the Speaker that we just heard you two talking about, because he is also concerned about the lack of oversight that he's expressed, and also that local residents here in Bicester have shared with us as well. We'll be speaking to Callum Miller in the next hour, the Lib Dem MP, because there are some 20,000 asylum seekers, most of them crossing illegally on the English Channel on small boats, in hotels across the country. The government is saying today they've closed down another set of hotels, down to 170 now, but there are still 70,000 asylum seekers in accommodation such as HMOs, all these military sites, of course, that are under the spotlight today. As you've said, Nana, 3,750 hoping to be housed from the government's perspective in those 3 locations. The one in Bicester, MOD Bicester, it's been a critical logistics hub since the Second World War. The Royal Logistics Corps and also Royal Engineers explosive ordnance disposal teams are currently based there, about 750 military personnel working round the clock there. They could soon share an area and the MOD site with over 1,000 asylum seekers from many of the countries that those soldiers have been deployed to, of course, including Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, we have taken reaction here on the High Street in Bicester throughout the morning and into this afternoon. And earlier we spoke with a local resident called Georgina. She's a stall holder here, comes here to the market, and she told us that she had witnessed concerning behaviour from previous groups of asylum seekers who've been resettled nearby.
I've seen how difficult it has been with like girls getting smacked on the bottom and by older, like 9-year-olds, by older teenagers, and that being acceptable. And also there was a point where men were sort of congregating, so late at night, like midnight. The locals have really, a lot of locals want to move because they feel that there is a huge amount that have come in. Their way of living is very different. I think they can integrate, but of what I've noticed is that to start with it is very challenging. So there will be challenges.
Well, Georgina also telling me in a longer version of that interview, which will be available on our website, that she's concerned about the numbers that are coming. If it is these 3,750 being split across 3 sites, she's also said that could be a major barrier to potential integration. Well, at the Borders Minister, Alex Norris, with this announcement, he said they're taking back control of a system that was failed by the Conservatives, who let the decisions process for asylum approvals to extend far too long. But we've also heard from the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philps saying that Labour isn't prepared to do what's necessary to get deportations up, talking more about the root causes of this problem. Now, next week we have Shabana Mahmood's immigration and asylum bill that's going to be put forward towards the Commons. We've already seen major political struggles for the Cabinet on that, particularly Shabana Mahmood battling for these stricter immigration rules, taking some resistance from the Parliamentary Labour Party. And just reflecting on what Georgina has said there, talking about extremely concerning behaviour, people who are facing immigration refusal, but then being kept in local areas around them. That's the sort of behaviour that's being reported here. If deportations can't be sped up, you can anticipate that some of the frustration being felt in towns like Bicester will expand. And just finally, while I've got you, in April 2022, the then Home Secretary, Priti Patel, she told the House of Commons that a new reception centre in Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire would open shortly. In response, the then Shadow Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said that the proposals were unworkable, shameful, unethical and extortionate in their cost to the British taxpayer. Well, now, 4 years later, a Labour government, with Yvette Cooper in the Cabinet, is going to push for a military site in Linton-on-Ouse to be used for asylum accommodation.
Thank you very much, Charlie Peters. Yeah, total hypocrites, aren't they, really? What I'd like them to do the U-turn on is Rwanda, but I don't think Rwanda will do it for us now. That was a big mistake, in my view, not allowing that to at least go forward, because they could have got away with it, because they didn't create it, so they could say, oh, well, it was done by the previous government.
They said it failed, and they never even blooming tried it. I mean, that's the frustrating thing, isn't it?
Well, now they're scratching around trying to find a third country that they can put people who they can't send back.
Well, let's speak now to GB News reporter Isabel Fekulak, who joins us from Crowborough. Isabel, what's it like where you are?
Well, yes, good afternoon, guys. Of course, that announcement this morning, including the Crowborough site, saying that that site, the use of that site to house asylum seekers will now be extended up until 2030. This is a community that has been protesting week in, week out against the use of that site. They have persevered every week, giving up their Sunday mornings to try and have their voices heard. Today, they feel like they've been ignored. They feel angry and in disbelief. You can see I'm joined now by a resident, Simon. Simon, what's your reaction to the announcement today?
I think myself and the vast majority of residents are absolutely devastated by this news. Not entirely surprised, because quite frankly, since day one we've been lied to almost on a daily basis, weekly basis by the government, trying to pull the wool over our eyes in regards to what is going to happen, then what has happened. It's devastating news for the community, and I woke up this morning to 197 WhatsApps from various people saying that they were in complete outrage over the whole affair. If the government told me today was Friday, I think I'd have to check, because it might be a lie.
And I know that you've just been chatting to me about how there are concerns in Crowborough about the behaviour from campmates currently residing in the Crowborough site. Tell me more about those concerns.
We have confirmed police reports of antisocial behaviour by residents of the camp in and around the town of Crowborough. A friend of mine was assaulted by a resident of the camp not so long ago. We see them meandering up to Crowborough, going to various supermarkets around Crowborough, buying alcohol. They take it back to just outside the gates of the camp. They consume it there, they become inebriated, they go back into the camp, but because they're not taking the alcohol back into the camp and they're drinking it outside, that's deemed perfectly acceptable by the people that are running the camp and also the government.
All right, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us, Simon. Of course, the Home Office saying that they're closing 20 additional asylum hotels, and that will save the taxpayer millions. Here, though, they say that they're angry. You've just heard here the disbelief of the community at the announcement this morning.
Thank you very much. It's just so irritating, isn't it? They think they're being clever by saying we've taken them out of the hotels, now we're putting them in communities or HMOs, and they can roam the streets. I don't think they should be allowed to do that. Anyway, Border Security and Asylum Minister Alex Norris said,
"We promised to close every asylum hotel and hand them back to communities, and that's exactly what we're doing."
20 more hotels have closed, and hotel numbers have more than halved since their peak. Instead, we're moving asylum seekers into ex-military sites that are a far cry from the hotels and the last government left us with.
This is a system being brought back under control, and we will not stop until the job is done. That's according to Alex Norris, the government minister.
All right, well, let's move on. It's just coming up to 20 minutes after midday, and up to 6,000 prisoners, including killers, rapists and sex offenders, could be released in stages from September under government plans to see overcrowding in prisons.
Well, under David Lammy's plans, offenders handed 15-year sentences, including for manslaughter or rape, could be released after 7.5 years rather than 10, subject to good behaviour.
Well, Shadow Justice Secretary Nick Timothy branded the early release scheme reckless, adding that it is an insult to victims and a threat to the public.
Well, joining us now is the crime journalist and a former prisoner himself, David Shipley. David, when the government announced this early release scheme at the very start of its time in office, they said there'd be safeguards for the very most heinous crimes. For sexual crimes, for instance. It seems like they've thrown those safeguards out the window today.
Yeah, it feels as though the goalposts keep getting moved, doesn't it? And I think initially we were promised this would only apply to prisoners who didn't pose a risk to the public, and it would be done in a very safe way. And they were talking about Texas as a model. And in Texas, you know, if you are an exceptionally well-behaved prisoner, you can be released potentially after just as little as 20-25% of your sentence. But you have to be exceptional, and you have to really have shown that you aren't a risk. What we're actually getting here, I think, is a system where the default will be that you will get released at the earliest possible time. Because what they're briefing is that, you know, it's only going to not be applied if you've committed a serious rule breach, you know, within the prison system. So I think the reality is, you know, there's so much pressure on prison governors to keep their populations down in their jails. There'll be a strong cultural pressure from within HMPPS to get these early releases, bringing down prison numbers. The whole pressure is going to be releasing someone, even if there are worrying signs of the risk they pose. And I think it's a betrayal of the principle of how this should work, and frankly of victims as well.
Well, it doesn't really make any sense, because they've gone away to Texas, realised that Texas are doing a very good thing by forcing prisoners to earn time so they can be released early, by doing exceptionally good things. So that will help to empty the prisons in Texas. What we've got here is them adding time on if you do something bad, so therefore keeping you in prison for longer if you do something bad, rather than making sure that you have a set sentence and then you can earn time so that you can be freed early. It seems very foolish. Have we heard anything about their plans to build more prisons, for example?
Well, the National Audit Office was obviously warning last year that a big chunk of the prison building programme is now impossible to complete, essentially, because the number of the big contractors went bust. But I think that's part of what's going on here. The trajectory is the prisons are going to be full again. And the last thing Labour want is to get to 2029, be coming into the general election, and prisons are full. They have to do another emergency release. I think they're trying to adjust the trajectory now to avoid disaster in 2029.
And that seems extraordinary, because they have a 5-year term in office. Does it really take half a decade to build a prison? The Chinese would do it in 6 months. Why can't we build anything in this country?
Well, I think that's a broader question. As prison, isn't it? You're absolutely right that we have this disastrous issue that we don't build infrastructure. We haven't built a reservoir since 1992. In fact, we've closed one. We can't build a railway. We can't build anything. I think it is funny, but also it's a disaster for the country, because actually we shouldn't ever be in a position where we run out of prison capacity and we have to make decisions like this. We shouldn't be having to, say, oh, do we release these rapists early or not? Because actually we should have enough prison capacity. We should have enough energy generating capacity. We should have enough hospitals and reservoirs. The fact that we don't build things is disastrous, and it creates these ridiculous situations.
Yeah, we were talking about the hosepipe ban in Kent yesterday. It's exactly the same issue that has led to the releasing of these rapists. My goodness me, completely writ large across the country. David Shipley, thank you very much indeed for talking us through this one.
Why can't they copy the example of this? That prison in South America, I can't remember which one it is. I'm going to do some more research and try and recall it. Channel 5 did a programme about it, and it is so bad that they have literally reduced crime by about 98%, because no one wants to go into it. And it's quite something that they don't get any daylight, they don't get this, they don't get that. Crime has literally hit the floor because people don't want to go to that prison. I think we're too generous in terms of that. We need to be stricter in our punishments, not looser, because I think it just encourages more crime.
Well, a spokesman for the Ministry of Justice said without this action, prisons would have run out of space entirely, making it impossible for offenders to be sent to prison.
Well, Lord Timpson, Minister of State for Prisons, said that we're fixing the broken prison system we inherited. We're doubling the maximum extra days prisoners face for serious breaches of prison rules, ensuring bad behaviour has consequences.
I think the prison you're referring to is in El Salvador.
El Salvador, that's the one.
Where Bukele is the president, and he's had this massive crime crackdown.
Yes.
And it went from having the highest homicide rate in the Americas to having a lower homicide rate than even the United States. Quite incredible. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes. Labour's own cost of living champion says Ed Miliband would be a disaster as Chancellor. We all know that. But trade unions are pushing to give the former Labour leader the keys to number 11. Who is right? We'll have that debate, but after the break.
Tap, dancing on ice. Yes, the furious Home Secretary wants Immigration Minister Mike Tapp sacked for writing an unauthorised article. But so far, the Prime Minister is keeping him in post. The Home Secretary, however, is fighting back.
Well, stay with us, because all of that and much more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past 12. Now, a row has broken out between the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Yes, he still is Prime Minister, over the future of Immigration Minister Mike Tapp.
Now, after Tapp wrote an article for The Times calling foreign care workers to be exempt from Mahmood's plans to change visa rules for migrants already living in the UK.
Well, this morning, a defiant Mike Tapp took to Twitter and claimed that all he had done was put across his views on a policy he'd been working for months.
Well, however, a government source has hit back at Tapp, saying that the minister took proposals that the Home Secretary was working on and briefed them as his own, before adding that the Home Secretary has asked the Prime Minister to sack him.
Well, we're joined now by Kevin Schofield, who's the political editor of HuffPost UK. Kevin, thanks indeed for joining us. This is the most bizarre sort of story. It's sort of a last days of Rome story, really. But a lot of people might be surprised that the Home Secretary doesn't have the power to sack one of her own ministers.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, ultimately, it's up to the Prime Minister who is in the government and who isn't in the government. So, yeah, we're in this bizarre situation now where clearly relations between Shabana Mahmood and her junior minister, Mike Tapp, have completely broken down to such an extent, actually, that any request for government documents by Mike Tapp must now be approved by Shabana Mahmood because all trust has broken down. But even still, she cannot demand that he be removed from office. Ultimately, it is up to Keir Starmer, and for now, the Prime Minister appears to be holding firm on it. Now, there's a bit of backstory here as well, because don't forget, Shabana Mahmood was one of the cabinet ministers after the May the 7th local elections who privately told Keir Starmer that he needed to go. So there's beef there as well, and I dare say with only 3 weeks to go as Prime Minister, the last thing Keir Starmer wants to do is give in to Shabana Mahmood. So there's a bit of a battle of wills going on right now.
It kind of highlight just how powerless Shabana Mahmood is in this circumstance. And also, on the next level, if you look at how the ministers are also powerless against the civil service, it just seems that the government the way it's set up doesn't actually work.
No, I mean, this is one of the things, I guess, that will be in Andy Burnham's entry, one of the many things when he does become Prime Minister. But I think it just shows now that the Prime Minister, I think you put it absolutely right there, Tom, it's the last days of Rome, really. He's only got 3 weeks to go. Everything is falling about his ears. He's clinging on to power, but without any real influence. He's got ministers fighting in public with one another. I mean, that tweet this morning from Mike Tapp was pretty extraordinary. I mean, he talks about, I have receipts. That's an implicit threat to publish documents that he says proves that he's not telling lies. I mean, it's just remarkable. And, you know, whoever, well, we know it's going to be Andy Burnham. When Andy Burnham comes in, he's going to have to try and sort out this mess.
Well, implicit in all of this is people jostling for jobs under the next ministry. I mean, Mike Tapp, in his original article for The Times, was saying, look at this policy that I've been working on. I've been working on it for months. We're going to be announcing more on this in the autumn, almost sort of appealing to Andy Burnham, keep me on as Immigration Minister so I can finish the job on this policy that is quite detailed and very, very important for the country to get right. I mean, it seems like all of this is from all directions, people just bargaining for jobs.
Yeah, it's pretty unseemly, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a beauty parade. They're all desperately trying to get a job in Andy Burnham's cabinet or in his junior ministerial ranks as well. He can only hand out about 90 jobs, though, and there's about 250 Labour MPs who probably have a realistic prospect of becoming minister. So that means he's going to have to annoy quite a lot of people. So it's a bit like musical chairs. You know, there's not going to be enough chairs around for everyone to get a job, and they're all desperately trying to make sure and catch his eye before he walks into 10 Downing Street. So meanwhile, you know, all the problems that the country faces are just going on unsolved.
All right, Kevin Schofield, thank you for that. I love that analogy. Musical chairs, the chair's gone. Oh, no! Thank you very much. He's the political editor at HuffPost UK. But Mike Tapp did say something very interesting the other day, and I think it was him who said that if a party forces their leader to resign, then they must have a general election. And I think that should be a law that should be set up.
I disagree.
Absolutely. Otherwise, look at what we've got. It's the Tories, how many did they have? And then you've got... we haven't voted for Andy Burnham. Makerfield have voted for him.
But it is true to say that the last Prime Minister to have been voted in at the start of a term and then voted out at the end of his term was Ted Heath in the 1970 Parliament. Since then, every single Prime Minister has resigned rather than been voted out, if they were the first Prime Minister to have been voted in.
But I think since 2015, though, no Prime Ministers could finish their term. And that is exactly why I'm saying that there should be a law that says that if you have been voted in, then if you want to change your leader, then you have to, you know, have a general
Well,
election.
since 1970, no Prime Minister has finished their term.
Well, that's just shocker. Right. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Open it! Stay where you are!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer. Go first.
Yes, this van driver came to the rescue as he offered a lift to armed police officers chasing a fleeing suspect. Would you do the same?
Well, all of that and much more to come after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The top stories from the GB newsroom. King Charles has disclosed that he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024 and 2025, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. A wildfire has broken out in Derbyshire amid the extreme heat wave. It's torn through large areas of moorland for over 24 hours, forcing road closures and smoke warnings as fire crews have been battling to bring it under control. The Home Office is attempting to use more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house around 3,750 if planning permission is granted. A boy aged 14 has been charged with murder following the discovery of a female body in South Wales. The girl hasn't been formally identified, but it's believed by police to be that of Lily, who was missing. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more at 1 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is fast approaching 37 minutes after midday. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Not fit for a king. The King and Queen will never live at Buckingham Palace, despite its £370 million refurbishment, as the monarch reveals his £13 million tax bill.
Well, stay tuned to find much more about all of that and more. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 award-winning news channel. Yeah.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Amber and red extreme heat warnings remain in force for Friday. Some parts of the UK, most notably East Anglia and the South East, will see the hottest day of the week, with humidity also an important factor to consider. Further west, it's still hot, but not as hot as it has been the last couple of days. And we've seen some thundery rain move through overnight, those thunderstorms now clearing into the North Sea. There's still some outbreaks of heavy rain across parts of central and northern Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps some lightning and hail later, and these thunderstorms could develop across the north of England, southern Scotland, with some dramatic lightning and hail accompanying them. Further south, very hot indeed across many parts of England and Wales. Wales in the southwest, a little bit fresher compared with Thursday, but it's hottest for East Anglia and the southeast, where some serious impacts could result from this day-by-day accumulation of the very hot and humid weather. Across Scotland, outbreaks of heavy rain, some lightning and some hail expected through the evening and overnight. And we're going to see a lot of sunshine continuing across many parts of England and Wales, but some cloud pushing into West Wales as well as the southwest of England, leading on to something a little bit cooler overnight, but still very warm for a June night. And then we've got these thunderstorms to watch out for moving up from northern France, potentially affecting the southeast of England. Further heavy rain at times for Scotland and Northern Ireland, although some gaps in between the rain. And it's a very warm night to come, with temperatures up at 20 or 21 Celsius. Now, we'll see a lot more cloud across the north and west as we begin Saturday. Best of the sunshine towards East Anglia and the southeast. It's another very warm day, with temperatures here reaching 32 or 33 Celsius. That could spark some lively thunderstorms later on. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Flooding has closed the M90 southbound junction 1C off-slip, blocking access from the A895 eastbound. On the M4 westbound, congestion follows a crash between junction 41 and 43. A collision on the A1M southbound in Durham closes one lane. The M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 3 and 2 faces 30-minute delays. The A303 westbound in Wiltshire is closed due to a collision. And on the trains, hot weather may cause disruption on East Midlands Railway and the Elizabeth line to and from Heathrow. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Now, King Charles has become the first British monarch to reveal his tax bill, paying £12.9 million in 2024 to 25, placing him among the UK's top 100 taxpayers.
Well, the bill also disclosed that the King and the Queen will not live at Buckingham Palace once the £370 million taxpayer-funded refurbishment work has been completed. They will instead remain at Clarence House.
Well, joining us now, Cameron Walker, GB News' political royal political correspondent, Cameron, who's been up quite a lot of the night talking about all of this.
Well, yes, I was inside Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace for a good 5 hours yesterday, pouring through all of their financial documents. But I think what surprised most of us was the fact that it was confirmed that the King and Queen will no longer be living in Buckingham Palace, or won't even start living there, and heirs and successors probably won't either, which is the opposite of what my predecessors were told 10 years ago when this resurfacing was starting. They were given assurances that although all of this public money is being spent on resurfacing the building, £369 million of our money, that it would still remain the monarch's primary residence in London. That is no longer the case. Now, from their perspective, the building needed to be done up anyway. It had really old electric, really old plumbing, and it was a catastrophic risk, is the quote, of a fire or a flood. So that is why they needed to do it up, they say. It's still going to be Monarchy HQ. There's still going to be lots of engagements carried out there, garden parties, visiting heads of state will be hosted there for state banquets and all the rest of it. The King will still retain a suite of rooms to change or have breaks between engagements. But it's basically a royal office rather than a royal home, and it's up to the public, really, to make up their minds whether they think it's worth the money.
Hasn't it always been a royal office rather than a royal home? Of course, the Queen lived in it weekdays, but famously, no one really liked it. The royals felt like it was a bit of a fishbowl and much preferred to be at Windsor or other royal residences. And Buckingham Palace has always been that sort of functional place rather than a homely place.
It is a bit of a goldfish bowl. I think it's been the focal point of the monarchy for 200 years. It was Queen Victoria who first lived in it. And I think as the years progressed, I think it became more and more of an office. And, you know, I've been in several times to all four of the wings, and you do walk around the place in these really long corridors, and there's lots of offices going off in different directions, and you can get very lost in the basement because there's just so many rabbit warrens of corridors. But it doesn't feel very homely. So I can see why members of the royal family don't particularly like it. Now, let's put things in perspective here. It is a palace. It's very luxurious. Compared to most people in this country, it's much better, and I think most people would take Buckingham Palace over sleeping on the streets, which unfortunately too many people do in this country, and too many British citizens do in this country. Nonetheless, it's what is the primary purpose of this palace, and the King wants it to be for the people rather than his own private use. So he is expected to open up more of the palace for the public to go and look around, including parts of the North Wing where the late Queen's bedroom and used to be in her private apartments. A Queen's Library, I think, is going to be installed. So I think, you know, it's still going to be a massive tourist attraction. It's still going to have the balcony appearances, but it's just not going to be quite the same as it was in previous reigns.
All right, Cameron Walker, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I think that probably part of the reason why he doesn't want to live there is that you can actually go on a tour of Buckingham Palace. Anyone can book a tour. I mean, I think probably in generations past, the King or Queen would be thinking, why are they in my house? Whereas perhaps there's that balance that has now been struck.
All right, well, let's go live now to Downing Street, where GB News' political correspondent Olivia Utley has just left a briefing with the Prime Minister's spokesperson. Olivia, what can you tell us?
Well, it was a really interesting briefing, all centred around this ongoing argument between Shabana Mahmood and Keir Starmer over the future of Immigration Minister Mike Tapp. To me, this seems like something which can only happen in the very, very last days of a government. We are essentially watching in real time Keir Starmer's authority falling apart. Now, the row concerns an opinion piece which Mike Tapp wrote in The Times, essentially briefing on government policy, calling on the Home Office to make care workers exempt from the hardline immigration reforms which Shabana Mahmood is pushing through next week. Now, according to Shabana Mahmood, that was already a plan that the Home Office wanted to put in place, and she believes that Mike Tapp was writing this op-ed in The Times to try and show a bit of leg, essentially, for Andy Burnham, because he would like a job in his cabinet. Now, Shabana Mahmood publicly called on Keir Starmer to sack Mike Tapp from government, saying that he has clearly broken the ministerial code. Starmer's official spokesperson is digging his heels in and saying that Mike Tapp has his full confidence, although he did say that the matter is being examined in the usual way. It's being looked at. No indication that the ethics advisor is being involved at the moment. There is a huge question, of course, over whether Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, and her immigration minister, who's essentially one row below her, are able to work effectively together when this huge row is playing out in public. Very very difficult to do your job effectively, one would think, if your boss is telling your supreme boss that you should be sacked. It's a really, really awkward one, and the politics of it all is very important. Mike Tapp has been very, very loyal to Keir Starmer, and at the moment Keir Starmer appears to be repaying that loyalty. Shabana Mahmood, meanwhile, has outed herself as an Andy Burnham fan. It feels as though a lot of people in the Home Office at the moment, a lot of people in government, are jostling for position, trying to get the eye of Andy Burnham, the incoming Prime Minister. And in the meantime, in this strange zombie phase of government, these things seem to be slipping under the radar somewhat.
I love that, showing a bit of leg to Andy Burnham. That's brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, Olivia. Brilliant.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Right, so new footage released by the CPS shows how Vikram Digwar's lied to the police on the night he murdered Henry Novak.
Well, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, here's the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to the weekend, and the historic heat across some parts of Europe will continue. Over more southern areas, it's not as exceptionally hot here, but nonetheless, it will feel pretty hot with all the sunshine around. Worth bearing in mind, we have high humidity as well, and with the hot and sunny weather, that will allow for a few showers to develop, and if they do, they could turn heavy and also thundery. But generally, the theme is for lots of dry, sunny weather to come as we go through into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Became the norm. Friends just became family, and you know, I just kind of found my love in the streets, really.
And then did that then lead to stuff with knives?
Yeah, so I was stabbed by 15, and then my best friend passed away in my arms from a stab to the heart. So I'd already had quite a experience with knife crime at that point.
I think in life it's important to give people a second chance, and especially when you come back and you were using this to such a positive thing, and actually, and you know, your kits already, as you say, have saved several lives, and hopefully it's not even about the saving of lives in that sense, is it? It's if you can prevent people from getting in the situation you were in the first place.
This is where education's important.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Crew of injured and wounded veterans and serving personnel have completed a historic sailing expedition around the UK, carrying the Invictus Games flag.
Yes, it's called the Full Circle Sailing Expedition, and it embarked on a momentous 12-week journey, having sailed 2,000 miles around the UK to complete the whole full circle.
Well, it supported more than 500 injured veterans, and the charity is raising £300,000 to fund their mission to support veterans right across the nation.
Everybody on that boat has a part to play. It's you know, everybody gets involved in safely moving that boat from A to B, and like you said, it's that camaraderie and being a part of a team, and you could say to some extent having that mission.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Come here, is it a love for the royal family, for the kind of the British pageantry? What is it?
You know what, both of those things. I do have a love for the British royal family. I have been royal watching since I was in the 5th grade. That was a long time ago. I watched Indian Style when Lady Di married then Prince Charles, and now he's the king. And I mean, I just love the parade troops, all of that. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely amazing.
Which royals do you think you're most looking forward to seeing as that procession comes down the mall a little bit later?
I want to see the king. I love seeing the king and the queen because I'm of that era, actually. The Prince Charles King, now King Charles era. So I always look forward to seeing the king, but of course the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Well, I think you're going to have a very easy job spotting you in the crowd.
GB News, the People's Channel.
afternoon, Britain. It's now 10-1. And brand new footage has been released by the Crown Prosecution Service, showing Henry Novak's killer, Vikram Digwa, speaking to police directly after the murder.
Now, the footage showcases Digwa repeatedly lying to officers about the incident. Let's take a look and have a listen.
Like I said, so I was literally just walking there and I seen him. He's then barged into me. Okay. I've said to him, look, clearly, mate, you're drunk. I could smell, like, you can smell the alcohol. I was like, look, mate, you're drunk. Carry on with your day, innit? He's then called me a Yeah, I'm a bad man. Then he then started recording me. Obviously, then I've just then like, pushed him a little. He's then grabbed me, then started grabbing my turban, pulled my hair, started grabbing my hair, or started punching me and all this sort of stuff.
Okay.
And then
do you know how he's got that wound then? How's he got that wound?
What wound, sorry?
Well, you said he's got blood on him. How's he?
It must have been where he punched him, but he did fall over here, so he was climbing all over these bins and stuff like that. And then he fell over and then landed onto that car.
Okay. So what, mate? All right. At this time, I'm arresting you on suspicion of attempt murder. Okay. Huh? Do not have to say anything. Remain on your defence. If you don't mention when questioned, something which you may later on in court. Anything you do so may be given evidence. Okay. The necessities are for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay. And for any further harm and injury. You've got your side of the story, mate. We don't know what's going on here. Okay. So we need to find out. Okay.
Now, I'm listening to that, hearing how softly the officer is speaking to Vikram, even though he's now aware that this is a murder situation. Whilst I respect that, the way they treated somebody who was lying on the floor in pain and clearly in a very bad way, I find completely shocking, with no evidence whatsoever. So there's no evidence whatsoever as to what has happened here, and they're treating somebody. I just find the whole thing just horrible. The way they treated Henry Novak was just disgusting. And now they're apparently, I would like to see the bit where apparently they took him to the kitchen to get some food that he needed, so that when he's in the police car and when he can have something to eat when he's been arrested for attempted murder.
No, it does really show the power of that word, racism. All Digwa had to do was say racism, and then the police, of course, that famous line, speaking to Henry, when he said, "I've been stabbed, don't think you have, mate."
Just disgusting.
And yet, when Digwa said, "I've had my turban pulled and I've been called the P word," did the police say, "Don't think you have, mate"? No, they didn't.
No. They didn't at all, did they? They just believed it immediately and treated him with softness as though he's... And I think this is part of that ridiculous indoctrination, in my view, that where they have been told, and even David Lammy said it himself, that people should be treated differently but the law should apply equally. That doesn't actually... That is a contradiction in terms, what he was saying there.
I mean, we are seeing it. We are seeing a different treatment here, although I'm sure the reason this has been produced by the Crown Prosecution Service is that this is showing the police eventually not believing at face value what Digwa said, and is showing him being arrested later on in that evening. If only the same scepticism was applied at the very start of the incident rather than after Henry Novak had bled out.
Well, exactly. The reason, Henry was no longer with us by that point, so I just find it absolutely astonishing, the whole thing. And I hope something good comes out of this. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on today's show. Do not go anywhere. First, let's take a look at your all-important weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Amber and red extreme heat warnings remain in force for Friday. Some parts of the UK, most notably East Anglia in the southeast, will see the hottest day of the week, with humidity also an important factor to consider. Further west, it's still hot, but not as hot as it has been the last couple of days. And we've seen some thundery rain move through overnight. Those thunderstorms now clearing into the North Sea. There's still some outbreaks of heavy rain across parts of central and northern Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps some lightning and hail later. And these thunderstorms could develop across the north of England, southern Scotland, with some dramatic lightning and hail. accompanying them. Further south, very hot indeed across many parts of England and Wales. Wales in the southwest, a little bit fresher compared with Thursday, but it's hottest for East Anglia in the southeast, where some serious impacts could result from this day-by-day accumulation of the very hot and humid weather. Across Scotland, outbreaks of heavy rain, some lightning and some hail expected through the evening and overnight. And we're going to see a lot of sunshine continuing across many parts of England and Wales, but some cloud pushing into West Wales as well as the southwest of England, leading on to something a little bit cooler overnight, but still very warm for a June night. And then we've got these thunderstorms to watch out for moving up from northern France, potentially affecting the southeast of England. Further heavy rain at times for Scotland and Northern Ireland, although some gaps in between the rain. And it's a very warm night to come, with temperatures up at 20 or 21 Celsius. Now, we'll see a lot more cloud across the north and west as we begin Saturday. Best of the sunshine towards East Anglia and the southeast. It's another very warm day, with temperatures here reaching 32 or 33 Celsius. That could spark some lively thunderstorms later on. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello from the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos, and it's the final week to see how you could win big in time for summer. Someone has to win our stunning cash prize of £76,543.21. Just don't miss out, as lines close on the 26th of June.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bowl.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 26th of June. I'm Nana Akua.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
And would you live next door to Crowber or next door to a migrant camp?
Well, look, I mean, I'm in a constituency that's had asylum hotels as well.
Happy, would you, with your children?
Look, I do understand, but look, we've got to put people somewhere.
Yes, more migrant barracks are on the way. 3 new army camps could be used to house thousands more migrants. And the Home Office has announced plans to expand their existing sites.
Well, they've closed 20 more hotels, 170 still in use, but locals here in Bicester are concerned about a local barracks being converted to house possibly over 1,000 small boat migrants.
Not fit for a king. The king and queen will never live in Buckingham Palace, despite its £370 million refurbishment, as the monarch reveals his £13 million tax bill.
Lies exposed by the CPS. Yes, dramatic new footage is released of the moment Vikram Digwa is arrested by the police, directly following the murder of student Henry Novak.
Labour's own cost of living champion says that Ed Miliband would be a disaster as Chancellor. We all knew that. But trade unions are pushing to give the former Labour leader the keys to number 11. Who is right? We'll have that debate.
Kemi Badenoch called Bridget Phillipson a spiteful class warrior, but the Education Secretary has now embraced the term, saying she'll wear it on a T-shirt. Would you buy one?
Well, perhaps if you were desperate in the heatwave, but as with heatwaves, there are always issues, and one of them is obviously fire. The heatwave has sparked a huge wildfire in Derbyshire, as today temperatures could hit 38 degrees. But is advice from politicians helping?
We're having COBRA meetings at the official level to monitor what's going on, give the appropriate advice.
Open it! Stay where you are!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer.
This van driver came to the rescue as he offered a lift to armed police officers chasing a fleeing suspect. Would you do the same?
Put your hands in your ass.
So that's a bit of heroicism. I would be quite happy to assist the police in something like that. Like I said, I'd feel like I was in part of an action movie or something. It'd be great.
Yeah, although it is all very easy to say that, sitting behind this desk, when you're there and someone's running at you with a gun and you don't know what the guy who he is chasing has, what sort of weapons he has. I mean, I can imagine it's more scary in the moment.
Maybe, I don't know. I'd feel like I was in some sort of movie. Nambo, get in gear, girl. And I'd be there. Let's take a look at the hero driver who helped Kent Police chase down a suspect earlier this week.
Open it! Stay where you are! Open it! Stay there!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer. Don't crash. Stop there! Don't move! Put your hands in your head! Sorry, mate. No worries. Cheers for your help. No problem.
Nana Akua in Nambo.
Well, if any movie producers are watching, you know where to call. Well, we'd really like to speak to the hero van man who gave a lift to those officers. Now, if you know who he is, if he's been in your local community, sort of, perhaps he's quite modest. Maybe he hasn't made himself known. But maybe you are him. Maybe you're watching this programme right now. In any case, if you have any information on who this man is, we'd love to get him on and frankly thank him on behalf of GB News and everyone that watches. So gbviews@gbnews.uk is the email address with any knowledge about the hero van man.
I'm sure he's telling everyone the story, so just nudge him if you heard the story from him and tell him to get in touch with us. gbviews@gbnews.uk. But first, your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Tom Nambo, thank you very much. The top stories. King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024 and 2025, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. Meanwhile, the King and Queen will not live at Buckingham Palace. That's once the £370 million taxpayer-funded refurbishment work has been completed. The palace will continue to be the administrative headquarters of the monarchy, but the King's decided nearby Clarence House will remain his official home. The decision has been taken to allow greater public access to the landmark, officials say. A wildfire has broken out in Derbyshire amid the extreme UK heatwave. The service said about 990 acres of land was affected by the fire. That's Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service, also saying at present we're being supported by the Rapid Relief Team and have sufficient supplies to deal with the issue. Meanwhile, the UK may have experienced its warmest June night yet after a record temperature for the month of 36.7 degrees was recorded yesterday afternoon in Somerset. Meanwhile, a red heat alert remains in place until 9 p.m. tonight. The Home Office is attempting to use more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house about 3,750 if planning permission is granted. The government's also looking to extend the use of existing military sites in Crowborough and East Sussex until 2030 and Wethersfield in Essex beyond 2027. Shadow Illegal Immigration Minister Matt Vickers spoke to GB News.
The reality is moving these people around, whether it be in migrant hotels, whether it be in these former armed forces bases, whether it be in HMOs that are now springing up left, right and centre, that isn't solving the problem. The problem will only be solved when we start detaining and deporting people who arrive in this country illegally. We've now got a real plan in place to deliver that when Kemi gets into office, leaving the ECHR, enacting what was the Rwanda scheme of detaining and deporting those people who arrive illegally.
Elsewhere, a Number 10 spokesperson says the Prime Minister has confidence in Mike Tapp, the Immigration Minister, after the Home Secretary called for Sakir to sack him. The government spokesperson adds the Prime Minister is taking advice in the usual way on what to do next. It comes after Shabana Mahmood said he'd written an article she believed to be out of step with immigration policy. Mike Tapp posted on X saying he won't be intimidated. Mr Tapp apparently penned an article without his boss's approval in which he demanded migrant care workers are given special exemptions from Mahmood's migration overhaul. A boy aged 14 has been charged with murder following the discovery of a female body in South Wales. The boy from the Gwent area was remanded in police custody and is appearing in court today. Police say he was arrested after the body was found in the Dethran area of Blaenau on Monday. The body wasn't formally identified, but police do believe it to be that of a girl aged 14. Named only as Lily, she was reported missing. The government's providing £2 million to help the emergency response to 2 major earthquakes which struck Venezuela this week. Rescuers are searching through rubble in a rush to save lives after the quakes killed at least 235 people and injured over 4,000. At least 50,000 people are reported missing. And brand new footage has been released by the CPS showing Henry Novak's killer, Vikram Digwa, speaking to police directly after the murder. The footage showcases Digwa repeatedly lying to officers about the incident.
Like I said, so I was literally just walking here and I've seen him. He's then barged into me. Okay. I've said to him, look, clearly, mate, you're drunk. I could smell, like, you can smell the alcohol. I was like, look, mate, you're drunk. Carry on with your day, innit? He's then called me a
Vikram Digwa was jailed for life with a minimum of 21 years for the murder of the 18-year-old Southampton University student after stabbing him multiple times last December. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Here's a look at the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.32 and €1.16. The price of gold, £3,062 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is currently at 10,460 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 1. Now, the Home Office has revealed plans to use more former military barracks to house thousands of asylum seekers, as it steams ahead with plans to close down migrant hotels.
Planning permission is being sought at sites in Bicester in Oxfordshire, Barnham in Suffolk and Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire, as ministers seek to find space for 3,750 asylum seekers.
However, the plans are not without controversy. The Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, has already blasted the government for announcing the plans without outlining them in the House of Commons first, without having them subject to that democratic scrutiny. And local residents have raised concerns that they could end up being outnumbered by asylum seekers.
Well, let's speak to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who joins us now. Charlie, what can you tell us about all of this?
Well, Tom and Nana, just to that last point you were referring to there, the anger that we've heard from the Speaker in the House of Commons about these plans not being put forward to MPs, I can tell you that the council in Braintree in Essex, which has the authority over Wethersfield, one of those sites that's being expanded, they've said today they only found out about these plans last night, whereas journalists, we were told about them earlier in the day. So the press informed before the politicians involved in dealing with these areas. I've gone to the Home Office for a response to that, but heard nothing back so far. But just more generally, let's talk through the numbers and what's being proposed here. We have about 20,000 asylum seekers living in hotels at the moment. That's down from a peak of 53,000. The vast majority of those being those crossing the English Channel illegally in small boats. But we also have 70,000 asylum seekers living in other accommodation approved by the Home Office. That will include the controversial houses of multiple occupancy, HMOs, dispersal into community areas, but also former military sites across the United Kingdom. And what the Home Office is planning today, 3,750 asylum seekers housed in 3 areas. In Barnham in Suffolk, Linton-on-Ouse in York, which is a very small population, could soon be dwarfed by the arrival of 1,000 asylum seekers. And here also in Bicester, about 10-minute drive away, the MOD Bicester site. It's a sprawling area. It's been a major logistics hub since the Second World War. It's got about 750 serving personnel there at the moment, but there are split up into different sites. And what we're being told is that the area set for use by the Home Office for asylum accommodation won't be linked to any of the military sites. But we have heard concern here from locals in Bicester about these proposals. A few people telling us they welcome the move and that they are supportive of small boat migrants in general, but also plenty more voices, I have to tell you, going in rather the other direction, saying there needs to be more action on deportation. They shouldn't be arriving in the country in the first place. We also spoke to Georgina, a stallholder just on the market here. It's a busy market day today in Bicester Town Centre, and Georgina told us that she has already noticed some concerning and potentially criminal behaviour from asylum seekers who've moved into the surrounding area here in Oxfordshire. And here's what she had to say about the proposals.
I've seen how difficult it has been with girls getting smacked on the bottom and by older, 9-year-olds, by older teenagers, and that being acceptable. And also there was a point where men were sort of congregating, so late at night, like midnight. The locals have a lot of locals want to move because they feel that there is a huge amount that have come in. Their way of living is very different. I think they can integrate, but of what I've noticed is that to start with it is very challenging. So there will be challenges.
Well, Georgina told us, as you've heard, that integration was possible for some people from some areas in the world, but that the numbers at the moment are just too high to achieve that. And some of the behaviour and actions that she's describing, of course, particularly concerning in the reports that she's made to GBNews today. We will follow up on those reports as we can. But I think just in terms of the broader political context here, looking across all the areas that are being considered, also the 170 hotels that are still open and those MOD sites being expanded or used now. The Border Security Minister, Alex Norris, he says they've got to do this because they're taking control of a system that was failed by the last Conservative government. But Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, he said today that actually the problem is that there isn't an effort to deal with deportation. Next week, Labour MPs and indeed the House of Commons will vote on Shabana Mahmood's immigration and asylum bill, which will help to speed up the deportation of those refused asylum. That's been a major issue. Many people who crossed on small boats refused asylum but still cling on to being able to live in the United Kingdom even after their application has been denied. So that's what they're hoping to change next week in the government. But of course, Shabana Mahmood's plans have been resisted quite critically by members of the Labour Party. And if I could just go back now to 2022, April, when the then Home Secretary, Priti Patel, was considering the use of MOD facilities due to the sudden surge in the need to use hotel accommodation. She said about the Linton-on-Ouse area, she said that the new reception there would be opened. And in response, the then Shadow Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said that the proposals were unworkable, shameful, unethical and extortionate in their cost to the British taxpayer. So 4 years ago, Labour Shadow frontbench figures were describing these plans as shameful and unethical, but today, 4 years later, they're pushing them through, subject to planning permission.
All right, Charlie.
Fascinating.
Charlie, thank you very much. Charlie Peters, really good to join you. Really good for you to join us. Well, I guess
we've all been joined together in.
It could be either way round, I guess. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Shall we speak to Callum Miller now, the Liberal Democrats MP for Bicester and Woodstock? Thanks indeed for joining us, Callum. I imagine that you are not particularly happy that the area you represent has been chosen for one of these sites.
Well, thanks for having me, Tom. Look, I spoke with a number of residents and, for example, chairs of parish councils last night, and they share my view that this is a really inappropriate site that's been proposed in MOD Bicester. MOD Bicester makes it sound like it's a garrison, that it's got barracks that might be used for asylum seekers. In fact, that's not the case. The site that they're talking about is effectively a semi-derelict industrial site where over decades the MOD have stored material, and I understand that the Home Office are talking about putting in some modular buildings in order to house people 2 miles from the nearest shop, 5 miles from the nearest town, with nothing to do in the area. And understandably, local residents are deeply concerned about what it will mean to put 1,250 asylum seekers into that area next to a village where the population is only 370.
Callum, what would... Obviously, these people have to go somewhere. The idea ultimately would be we don't want them to go via the dinghies anyway. That's the first thing. But would you be more comfortable if, say, they were there, but they weren't allowed to leave? So everything was self-contained, they weren't allowed to leave, and they didn't really come into the village at all. So that way, it wouldn't be as a prison, but it'd be somewhere that they can stay until they've been approved their asylum.
Well, I think we need to think really carefully about all the different folk who are affected by this. I'm concerned about the impacts on local residents, but I'm also concerned about the folk who are seeking asylum themselves. They have been granted the right to appeal for asylum. They're waiting for their hearings. We can't imprison them in a kind of open prison. That is not an appropriate way to treat these people. Many of them will, in due course, be granted asylum because they've come from dangerous parts of the world. So I think the real problem is that the government is just moving people around from inappropriate and expensive locations in hotels to inappropriate and expensive locations on MOD sites. And what we need instead is the government to do much more to stop the core problem, which is that the Conservatives and Labour have allowed the number of people waiting for their asylum hearings to go up exponentially, particularly under the Conservatives. The government needs to do much, much more to invest in bringing that down by having more rapid hearings so that those who have a decision can be either allowed to start building lives in the United Kingdom or to be sent back to their home countries.
But Callum, you're saying treat these people as though putting them in a safe place, having fled, as you said, dangerous places. Some of them could be dangerous themselves, let's be honest here. You're saying that we're treating them badly by giving them food, shelter, accommodation, and then not allowing them to leave, which is fine until they've passed their asylum. Wouldn't you be, surely you should be more interested in the interests of your constituents who've told you that they're not happy with this? Shouldn't you be more concerned about what could happen with the migrant camps near them than the other way around? Surely it would be better if they were detained. I just don't get whose interest you're working in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm representing the interests of my community who are deeply concerned about this, but there are many within my community who are also deeply concerned for the rights of these people. So it's trying to find the right balance here. What we need is speedy, firm and fair decision making. Some of these people do have the right to be here and they will be granted asylum. We can't imprison them while we wait for that. At the start of this item, you quoted the then Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper saying it would be problematic.
Yeah, but they're not being imprisoned, are they? They're not being imprisoned, are they? They're being contained because we don't know who they are yet. So some of them may have even come from prison, or some of them may even be criminals. We don't know yet. So wouldn't it be safer if they were given food, shelter, all the nice things, they're not treated badly, but they wouldn't be allowed to leave. Therefore, they're not in your constituency, and your constituents won't be concerned.
Well, I think what we need to think about is the scale of what we're talking about. At the moment, we have people dispersed into hotel accommodation. There are many problems with that. As I've said, it's expensive. It's not an appropriate use of taxpayer funds, but people are there in relatively small numbers. This is talking about putting over 1,000 people on one site, people who may, as you say, have troubled pasts. It's not clear to me that that's a safe environment for them either. So I think the government really needs to think very hard about whether this is an appropriate site.
Now,
furthermore,
I
do think that coming back to the question
a little bit earlier, that it is 5 miles from the nearest town, semi-derelict in your words. I mean, looking at the criteria the government will have been using, surely that's precisely the sort of site that they'll be looking for, somewhere that is separate from, rather than closer to, local communities, and somewhere that is not going to be in the way, frankly. Is it not the case that there are going to be very, very few places up and down the country that are incredibly appropriate to put these people, and simply saying process them faster is not going to be a solution for some time yet, given the scale of the number of people who are here?
So, Tom, the argument that you make, which is that it's appropriate to put this right next to a very small community, is just as problematic as the implication that it's better than being closer to a larger community. There is a village right next to this site of 370 people. I can't tell you how anxious and worried those people are about the prospect of having this number of people on their doorstep. Remember that under our current arrangements, asylum seekers have literally nothing to do while they're waiting for their hearing. They are given a very small allowance each week. They have no activities on the site, and that is a recipe for people to be pent up and potentially for real problems to emerge, and that's what my community are deeply concerned about.
We have three. We've got hotels, HMOs. Well, I suppose we had a barge, and we've got military sites. Which of those 4 potential sites should people be in as they wait for their hearing?
So what I'm frustrated with the Home Office about is that in order to chase some headlines and to give the impression that they are somehow taking action, they are moving people from one site to another, rather than the huge investment of money that the NAO and the Public Accounts Committee have highlighted will be required to move people to military sites. Some of that money should be invested in processing faster, and some of it should also be invested in managing the asylum-seeking population in the locations that they are currently. People in smaller establishments who can be monitored and managed by the Home Office is much better than having this incredible concentration of people in a totally inappropriate location.
Smaller sites, so HMOs.
Wouldn't it be better if they couldn't leave?
HMOs and other sites.
Well, wouldn't it be better if they wouldn't it be better if they couldn't leave? Then nobody's concerned. They get looked after nicely, and then if they pass, then they pass their asylum, they come through. As you said, you have quicker processing. I just don't understand why you'd put people who are totally unvetted into, inject them into a village where you don't know what they have been up to. And as we know, there's a lot of crime, especially as the majority of them come via small boats. We know this already.
So I've spoken with local police and others who have assured me that there is no evidence that there is a higher quantity of crime related to asylum seekers as to the wider population. Many people want to play on that, and that leads me to another real concern, which is what this proposal does for social cohesion, not only for the community in my area, but we've seen up and down the country that when these proposals come about, there are those from completely outside the area who see it as an opportunity to foment division and to drive a wedge between social cohesion. These are warm, welcoming communities which have already welcomed a number of refugees, for example, from Ukraine or Afghanistan, who have been allowed to come into this country. They don't want this wedge driven between them and other parts of the community.
Callum, sorry. I was going to say that's not the same thing. I don't think the Ukraine scheme was the same thing. I thought they were quite well vetted before they weren't they vetted properly with the Ukraine scheme. Here, they're not, are they?
Anyway, lots of different schemes. We're getting into the weeds now. Callum, Miller, thanks indeed for joining us. Really appreciate your time, and I'm sure this is one that we're going to continue continue to follow as it develops. Let's quickly speak now to the former Labour advisor, Danny Shaw. Danny, it does seem like there is a bit of hypocrisy here on behalf of the Labour government and the now Home Secretary, because when the Conservatives tried to look at some of these sites, they were called shameful and unethical by the Labour opposition.
Well, that's politics for you, isn't it? When you're in opposition, you oppose. You take the view in general of the campaigners, of local residents, and particularly if you're faced with a Conservative government that's got an asylum problem and a crisis. And when you're in government, it's very different. You have to make some difficult decisions. So that doesn't surprise me. I do think it's a little bit rich of the Liberal Democrat MP there to say, not in my backyard. Well, whose backyard then? Where are these people going to go? Are they going to go in hotels? I'm sure he was probably, very anxious
Danny, I did ask him this
a
question,
hotel in his area.
The answer he gave was that he didn't want big sites like Army barracks. He wanted small sites. I pressed him and said, does that mean HMOs? And he said yes. So it seems like the Liberal Democrats would prefer people to be dispersed in HMOs in and around communities rather than in these big sites altogether.
But he also said that he didn't like the fact that they were moving from one site to another. So that would be exactly what would be happening if they were moved from where he is to another site, which I find almost ridiculous. And just to confirm that on the Ukraine scheme, they were vetted. So they were vetted. I was absolutely spot on with that. OK, so Danny, what do you think of the idea, and I've said it before, that in these, if we do use big sites, like I think this is a potential large site, that they can be almost a community that are sort of contained within that community until their asylum is processed. And of course, if we get more speedy at processing asylum, which is the aim, that they won't be there long, but they'll only be released when we know who they are, or we've got some idea of their background, because as we know, there is a large criminal element coming via a small boat. That is not in dispute.
Speedy decisions is absolutely essential. If you can get people who come here illegally to have made a decision within a couple of weeks, that's the best option. And then you can detain people when there's a realistic prospect of removing them. That's within the law. You cannot at the moment just detain people while their asylum claim is being looked at. I've been to Wethersfield. I was there a few years ago when it was being considered to be used for a prison. Eventually, it was decided to use it for an asylum camp. It's wholly unsuited. I have to be honest, it sounds a bit like Bicester, in as much as there's a small village nearby. There's nothing for the people there really to do. I think they get a bus once or twice a day to the nearest town, which I think is Braintree, and they sort of hang around in Braintree and then they go back. So these big sites near small villages are not ideal. But, you know, if you want to clear asylum hotels, then you have to find some alternative accommodation.
Frankly,
and I do think that camps is probably one option.
None of these things are ideal, are they? When people are waiting sometimes a year or two to have their asylum application heard, these are people who, in many cases, come from troubled parts of the world, may well bring troubled parts, troubled thoughts with them, or different attitudes with them as well. Frankly, if they're in HMOs in the middle of town, or a hotel at the edge of town, or a military barracks far away from town, but then the government puts on buses to bring them into town, frankly, people will be irritated and frankly scared of any of these different solutions.
Yeah, none of them is ideal. But, you know, the government has a commitment to stop people being held in hotels. I think we all agree probably hotels is the worst option because, firstly, it's taking away a community facility that's being used for tourism and visitors and so on. Secondly, hotel accommodation is really not suitable to hold people, particularly families, for large amounts of time. And we know some of the problems that have been caused by people being in hotels. So I think that's the worst solution. I think the other two solutions, flats, houses of multiple occupation, whatever you call it, and military camps that can be possibly refurbished, refitted with some facilities there, some health facilities and education facilities and so on. I think those are better options. But obviously, I understand that communities won't be happy about it. But I do ask the Liberal Democrats, what is your alternative? You've got 21,000 people in hotels. Where do you want to put them? Do you want them to go into accommodation that could be used for other people who need social housing? Or do you want them to go into army camps? So that this is the problem with opposing. It's all very very well, but you need to find solutions, and that's what governing is about.
All right, Danny Shaw, thank you very much. He's a former Labour advisor. Thank you. I just find this all ridiculous. If it were me, they would be detained. They would not be allowed to leave. Processing would be done more swiftly. And then if I deemed them fit to be allowed to be let loose in the UK, then I would. I don't understand why perfectly sensible, decent people think that it is wise to allow people who've come here and broken the law via small boat, and we know the migrant camps are places where there's lots of violence and crime and criminality, why somehow they seem to lose their heads and say, oh, these people can just roam around until we've worked out what they are. I don't think so. I would have them locked up, and I'm sorry I feel they've broken the law, until I know who they are.
It does seem we have a completely topsy-turvy system in this country. I've got friends who are trying to come and live and work in London, who have university degrees, who want to work in professional jobs, and they're going through all of this process. Meanwhile, if you come from a very dangerous, poor part of the world, rock up on a boat, you are absolutely welcome to.
You're welcome to. Let me give you somewhere to live.
Accommodation is given to you.
Oh, you poor thing. You need tickets to go into town because you haven't
It's
got
a completely upside-down system. Well, we should say that Border Security and Asylum Minister Alex Norris said, we promised to close every asylum hotel and hand them back to communities, and that's exactly what we're doing. 20 more hotels have closed and hotel numbers have more than halved since their peak. Instead, we're moving asylum seekers into ex-military sites that are a far cry from the hotels the last government left us with.
It went on to say, this is a system being brought back under control, and we will not stop until the job is done. All right, let's talk about Bridget Phillipson. She has hit back at Kemi Badenoch once again, saying that she'll be turning the Conservatives' leader's spiteful class warrior comment into a T-shirt.
Well, Kemi Badenoch launched the insults after Labour introduced a historic VAT raid on independent school fees, claiming this was to pay for more teachers in state schools.
Yet, recent figures show that teacher numbers have fallen by just under 2,000 since last year.
Well, joining us now is the principal at LVS Ascot School, Christine Cunniff. Christine, thanks indeed for joining us. These numbers are astonishing. Labour promised 6,000 more teachers.
6,500, actually.
4,500 more teachers.
6,500.
6,500 more teachers. Got there eventually. As a result of this tax raid, and the numbers have gone down by 2,000.
Absolutely, I mean, it's quite astonishing, but to quite honest with you, there's no surprises, because I think everybody saw this happening. And we've said it right from the start. Those of us that have complained about the tax right from the very beginning, most notably education, not taxation, have said this won't happen, because the recruitment crisis is a little bit more than throwing money at it. It's not happening, and the money's not there, and it's not being diverted into that. The money has not been ring-fenced for education. It's been spent on other things like housing.
Well, she is a spiteful class warrior, though, because of what she's done. She's done something that was baseless, not needed, and destroyed the chances of some of those young children who the state sector cannot facilitate. And by doing that, she even the quote on her, was it her ex, where she talked about AstroTurf and posh schools. I mean, she's proved that she is. Oh, we lost Christine.
They also said that only about 40...
Sorry, Christine, there's a little delay on the line. Do go on.
Hello, I'm back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, they said we'd only lose about 14,000 children, but it's now 40,000, nearly 3 times the amount. These children have been displaced from their education. It's a spiteful policy right from day one, and those children displaced, and those schools are closing. And again, they said that the schools were not closing, that more schools were set up, but that's not truthful. It was SEND schools that are not stuck to the VAT were being set up. Mainstream closures.
Christine, we're struggling with your line. So, Christine, we're struggling with your line. We'll do have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Christine. She's the principal for LVS Ascot. But the fact that Bridget Phillipson is saying she's going to wear the T-shirt and everything, she should be ashamed of herself. That's not something to be proud of. After destroying, I think, a lot of people's opportunities, she's wearing that T-shirt as if it's something to be proud of. No.
Well, earlier this week at Prime Minister's Questions, Sir Keir Starmer defended Bridget Phillipson, saying the Education Secretary grew up in poverty. Her story is an incredible one of social mobility and success. I'm proud that she is sitting there, and so should everyone else who sees this country, who in this country cares about social mobility.
Well, it went on to say she knows that for poor children, education is absolutely vital, and that it is why it drives every single priority and value that she has.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Open it! Stay where you are! Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go.
Cheers, buddy.
A van driver came to the rescue as he offered a lift to armed police officers chasing a fleeing suspect. Would you do the same?
Well, all of that and much more to come after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The top stories at 1:30. King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024 and 2025, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. A wildfire has broken out in Derbyshire amid the extreme heat wave. It's been tearing through large areas of moorland for over 24 hours, forcing road closures and smoke warnings as fire crews continue to battle to bring it under control. A Number 10 spokesperson says the Prime Minister has confidence in Mike Tapp, the Immigration Minister, after the Home Secretary called for Sir Keir Starmer to sack him. The government spokesperson adds the Prime Minister is taking advice in the usual way on what to do next. It comes after Shabana Mahmood said he'd written an article she believed to be out of step with immigration policy. The Home Office is attempting to use more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house about 3,750 if planning permission is granted. Those are the headlines for now. More at 2 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Amber and red extreme heat warnings remain in force for Friday. Some parts of the UK, most notably East Anglia and the South East, will see the hottest day of the week, with humidity also an important factor to consider. Further west, it's still hot, but not as hot as it has been the last couple of days. And we've seen some thundery rain move through overnight. Those thunderstorms now clearing into the North Sea. There's still some outbreaks of heavy rain across parts of central and northern Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps some lightning and hail later. And these thunderstorms could develop across the north of England, southern Scotland, with some dramatic lightning and hail accompanying them. Further south, very hot indeed across many parts of England and Wales. Wales in the southwest, a little bit fresher compared with Thursday, but it's hottest for East Anglia and the southeast, where some serious impacts could result from this day-by-day accumulation of the very hot and humid weather. Across Scotland, outbreaks of heavy rain, some lightning and some hail expected through the evening and overnight. And we're going to see a lot of sunshine continuing across many parts of England and Wales, but some cloud pushing into West Wales as well as the southwest of England, leading on to something a little bit cooler overnight, but still very warm for a June night. And then we've got these thunderstorms to watch out for moving up from northern France, potentially affecting the southeast of England. Further heavy rain at times for Scotland and Northern Ireland, although some gaps in between the rain. And it's a very warm night to come, with temperatures up at 20 or 21 Celsius. Now, we'll see a lot more cloud across the north and west as we begin Saturday. Best of the sunshine towards East Anglia and the southeast. It's another very warm day, with temperatures here reaching 32 or 33 Celsius. That could spark some lively thunderstorms later on. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M90 southbound junction 1C off-slip is closed due to flooding, with no access from the A895 eastbound. The M4 westbound is congested between junctions 40 and 43 after an earlier accident. West Berkshire's A34 southbound has one lane closed due to a broken down vehicle. In Brighton and Hove, the A27 westbound faces delays with one lane closed for a broken down vehicle. And on the trains, hot weather is causing disruption on East Midlands Railway and the Elizabeth line to Heathrow terminals. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 39 minutes after 1 o'clock. Iceland's executive chairman, Lord Walker, believes that Ed Miliband would make a disastrous chancellor, amid speculation that Andy Burnham could appoint him in the role.
Well, more importantly than being Iceland's executive chairman, he's also Labour's cost of living champion.
Is he?
So what he says really does seem to matter. Well, Lord Walker said that while he believes that climate change is a significant threat, he thinks Ed Miliband's approach places unfair pressure on households and that financial markets would freak out if he became Chancellor.
Yes. Oh, joining us now is economist and senior fellow at the Great British think tank Damien Punda and former Labour councillor Simon Greaves. Simon, I will start with you. Ed Miliband, I mean, he is a disaster. He's good at spending money, I give you that. But chancellors need to have a way of kind of growth, and it feels like I don't think there'll be much of that coming from Ed Miliband.
Well, there's lots of people very keen not to see Ed Miliband as chancellor. He runs a tight ship in the department that he's in. Good communicator, Treasury background, very clear at what he wants to see, very determined in relation to policy, very consistent in relation to policy. I think those are a lot of qualities that a chancellor will be very positive indeed.
But what's that got to do with making money? Like, he needs to make money. As a chancellor, he needs to know how to make money, growth. We need growth in the economy.
The UK PLC needs more money. It's not simply down to the chancellor purely, but look, there needs to be more of the animal spirits unleashed, I would say, more enterprise, more entrepreneurship in the country. And if you look at the people may not be too keen on green energy and that sector, but my God, there's a lot of growth in that area.
OK, let's throw that over to Damien.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we need a chancellor, with one overriding duty, and that's to make the entire economy prosperous. Not one industry, not one political objective, the entire economy. So I don't want to have somebody who's going to be focused more on, green energy, net zero, when, as you rightly say, we need growth, we need more private investment, we need infrastructure spending, we need to attract entrepreneurs, investors, risk takers, the people that are actually going to provide the growth that we really need. I'm not against, climate policies and net zero. It's the speed that we're going to probably get under an Ed chancellorship, and that's what worries me.
Well, Simon, I mean, he's making very good points, isn't he? That it's the speed of net zero. They're trying to force us now. Ed Miliband was talking about underfloor heating and towel rails and things like that. He's not thinking in a financial way that, well, what about the cost of extracting those things from homes? What about the fact that our infrastructure in this country can't facilitate it? What about the cost to the general public who are going to have to pay for this in some way for some pipe dream in the sky? He's not very good, in my view, at assessing cost to the public.
No, we've just come out of the biggest inflation surge in a generation. We have a cost of living crisis that is continuing. Inflation over the last, 4 or 5 years is 30% higher, when realistically it should be closer to 10% higher if we had a 2% inflation target that was met. And now to throw all this additional cost onto the public, it's ridiculous. What is the rush? Why? Britain produces 1%, maybe 1.5% of global emissions. What difference is it going to make to drag it out over a generation rather than try to bring it in over the next 5, 10, 15 years? It's insanity.
Well, if you look at the amount of money and the work that's been done to roll out energy infrastructure, certainly going from north to south in the UK, there's a lot of very upset people in terms of the disruption in that process. But the truth is that is very much being driven by, I would say, Ed Miliband in the role that he has, and the fact that the economy needs that infrastructure there in order to drive the growth in the future. Look, if we don't have the energy infrastructure, then in a separate item, we may talk about the need for AI data centres in the UK, and we don't currently have the infrastructure in order to do that. So we absolutely need that infrastructure, and to be honest, it needs to be paid for, unpopular as it might be.
Although part of the reason we don't have those AI data centres, Damien, is because energy is so expensive.
Exactly.
Well, exactly. What we really need is investment in nuclear power stations. That's what we need, and to build them quicker. It's no good saying we're going to have 3, 4, 5 nuclear power stations or small modular reactors if it's going to take 10, 15 years to build. But yes, we do need cheaper energy. Otherwise, we're going to fall behind in the world rankings.
And I would also say on the back of that, look at the rollout and the progress on modular nuclear, which definitely is part of the future, and the fact that the government is openly talking about the reduction in regulation in order to speed up that rollout process. Now, that is incredibly important.
That was a process that was started by George Osborne in 2015 or 2016. It feels like we've been going around this for a decade now and still haven't seen a single small modular reactor. And
not too far from where I am, there's the companies that will be building them, and we know as to the fact that the regulations need to be reduced in order to ensure that they are put in location and plugged into the system. So
let's make sure
it's all part of that process.
Sorry, I'm just going to. We are running out of time, so we'll leave it there. But let's hope that if they are doing that, they're UK-based companies and UK-owned companies who will benefit from that, and the infrastructure will be built by people in this country. Simon Greaves and Damien Ponder, thank you very much. We have to leave it there.
Nana, you're going to absolutely love this little fact about the small SMR programme. That in the process to win the bid to be the government's champion to build these things, they had to fulfil a lot of criteria. One of those criteria were how many asylum seekers they employed. What percentage of their employees were women? All of that was what these companies had to do in order to win the contract. Not how good they are at building nuclear reactors.
And they probably weren't British companies either by the end of it. All right, this is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, the heatwave sparked a huge wildfire in Derbyshire. As today, temperatures could hit 38 degrees.
But if you're in search of some holiday sun, I don't know why you need to do that. Here's the forecast in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to the weekend, and the historic heat across some parts of Europe will continue. Over more southern areas, it's not as exceptionally hot here, but nonetheless, it will feel pretty hot with all the sunshine around. Worth bearing in mind, we have high humidity as well, and with the hot and sunny weather, that will allow for a few showers to develop, and if they do, they could turn heavy and also thundery. But generally, the theme is for lots of dry, sunny weather to come as we go through into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
You've been to see Glengarry Glen Ross.
I have. So the movie was 92 and the play was 84, 85, something like David Mamet. It's all about men, or it's about men that are posturing being men. It's this idea of sort of toxic strutting, peacocking. However, the outrage, this most male of plays, has been cast with all women. Horrific. Taking away men's jobs right in front of us, Michael. It's on at the Old Vic, and we've got a cast of the ladies having a little word about it.
I think it might explode the play and open it up in really amazing ways, but we just don't know, and that is thrilling.
On first glance, you look at Glengarry and you think male, masculine world, male toxicity, but then if you strip that away and look at it from another lens, you say, no, this is about humans.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Joining me now is Chef Julia Walsh, who's the head of patisserie at Le Cordon Bleu.
Thank you.
How lovely to see you. You look marvellous in your chef's hat and your chef's jacket. Tell me about Le Cordon Bleu.
Le Cordon Bleu has been in operation for over 130 years. We had our 130-year anniversary last year. I'm from the campus in London, in Holborn, and we have a very wide-ranging curriculum with our students. I teach patisserie, so for me, I teach students to learn about things such as bakery, cakes, entremets, such as this one here, and showpieces. We do chocolate and sugar sculptures as well.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
3 lines on my shirt, never stop me dreaming.
Could this be England's biggest superfan? Benny Elcock has covered his York home in St George's flags in support of England ahead of the World Cup. 3 Lions memorabilia are draped across his windows, garden gates and flower pots. Even the family's Yorkshire Terrier Reggie has his own outfit.
We've done it for years. And I'll stick my Everton one up, because I'm a massive Everton fan. People just think I'm mad. Say, well, you've gone a bit mad, you've gone a bit overboard. I said, I don't care. I love it.
Football mad Benny can't wait for England's first match.
GB News, the People's Channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 4th year in a row.
The winner is GB News.
Thank you so much for voting for us. It's because of you that we're so proud to be the People's Channel, and it's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
It's voted for the people who watch us.
Well, we've got the best viewers in the world, haven't we? The most loyal viewers.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Britain. Now, Britain is continuing to face extreme temperatures. I just think they're hot, really. I love it. With a red heat warning in place for southeast England for a 3rd consecutive day.
And officials have warned that temperatures could exceed 36 degrees in some places, perhaps even rising to 38 degrees in others.
Oh, lovely. Right, GB News' national reporter Will Godley joins us now. Will, how are you faring in the heat? Last time you're still on the pedalo. You must be exhausted.
Do you know what? I've been getting in the miles. We've been doing laps and laps of the Serpentine here. It is incredibly hot. It is 34 degrees in London now. And I was trying to interview the people on the pedalo next to me, but we've drifted so much it's going to be hard to do so. But let me tell you, people in London I've been speaking to today have been telling me just how hot it is today. Take a look at some of the people I spoke to earlier. A lot of them finding it a little bit too hot.
London's not a nice place to be when it's so hot. It's just way too sticky. And the heat has no place to escape. It's unbearable at every level, frankly. So the answer is, no, it's not great.
Too much.
Is it?
Yeah, constantly. Yeah, it's just overpowering.
Too much. Well, we're not used to it, are we? That's the problem with it.
I do love the heat, but it's just hard not being able to cool down because there's no air conditioning. So the tube stations have been really tricky.
Well, I've ditched the pedals. I've come to the other side of the boat. I couldn't work out how to use the rudder. And Joe and Erin join me now. They're celebrating their 4-year anniversary today. Congratulations to you two. Is this the hottest anniversary you've ever had?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. Oh,
yeah.
Except for the 40 degrees back in 2022.
And how are you celebrating today?
Just doing a day out in London, yeah. Just this and eating food.
And how are you finding the heat on a pedalo? Is it cooling you down or heating you up?
Heating us up.
No, yeah. It's all right though because it's very windy out here, which helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's harder work than I thought it'd be.
Well, I'll let you get on with it. We've sort of, I think I've hindered you. We're now crashing both of us, so I'll let you get on, and I might wander around here back to the pedals and see if I can help us out. Because Tom, Nana, This is harder than it looks. I'm going to go backwards to help these guys out of the way if Lucia doesn't almost fall in. And here we are, back and away, because what is clear today is just how hot it is. People normally, when you come to Hyde Park, enjoying the sunshine, out having picnics, sitting in the sunshine. No one's doing that today. They are all sitting under the trees in the shade. The sun today seems to be a little bit too hot for people.
Well, Godly, thank you very much, sterling effort. See, that's what they do.
Oh, look how quickly he's going. Blimey. That's putting in the work
he's
there,
got
Will.
the wind behind him. I would say that now you're behaving like Africans when we're in Africa. We don't sit out there going, oh, I want to get darker. You just get out of the sun because it's too hot. So, yeah, hope you're enjoying it, though. I love it.
Oh, I've just been told that the Met Office has reported the hottest temperature it's found. What was that? 36.9 degrees in Suffolk. Golly. Well, that's a record that has just been broken now. We'll be back in a bit. Do stay with us.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Amber and red extreme heat warnings remain in force for Friday. Some parts of the UK, most notably East Anglia and the South East, will see the hottest day of the week, with humidity also an important factor to consider. Further west, it's still hot, but not as hot as it has been the last couple of days. And we've seen some thundery rain move through overnight. Those thunderstorms now clearing into the North Sea. There's still some outbreaks of heavy rain across parts of central and northern Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps some lightning and hail later, and these thunderstorms could develop across the north of England, southern Scotland, with some dramatic lightning and hail accompanying them. Further south, very hot indeed across many parts of England and Wales. Wales in the southwest, a little bit fresher compared with Thursday, but it's hottest for East Anglia and the southeast, where some serious impacts could result from this day-by-day accumulation of the very hot and humid weather. Across Scotland, outbreaks of heavy rain, some lightning and some hail expected through the evening and overnight. And we're going to see a lot of sunshine continuing across many parts of England and Wales, but some cloud pushing into West Wales as well as the southwest of England, leading on to something a little bit cooler overnight, but still very warm for a June night. And then we've got these thunderstorms to watch out for moving up from northern France, potentially affecting the southeast of England. Further heavy rain at times for Scotland and Northern Ireland, although some gaps in between the rain. And it's a very warm night to come, with temperatures up at 20 or 21 Celsius. Now, we'll see a lot more cloud across the north and west as we begin Saturday. Best of the sunshine towards East Anglia and the southeast. It's another very warm day, with temperatures here reaching 32 or 33 Celsius. That could spark some lively thunderstorms later on. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello from the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos, and it's the final week to see how you could win big in time for summer. Someone has to win our stunning cash prize of £76,543.21. Just don't miss out, as lines close on the 26th of June.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Friday, the 26th of June. I'm Tom Holman.
And I'm Nana Akua.
And would you live next door to Crowber or next door to a migrant camp?
Well, look, I mean, I'm in a constituency that's had asylum hotels as well.
Happy, would you, with your children?
Look, I do understand, but look, we've got to put people somewhere.
The immediate answer would obviously be no. More migrant barracks, 3 new army camps could be used to house thousands more migrants, and the Home Office has announced plans to expand their existing sites.
Well, tensions were already high here in Crowborough with weekly protests against the use of the military site to house asylum seekers. Well, now that the Home Office have extended that use to 2030, residents say they feel a mixture of anger and disbelief.
A palace not fit for a king. The King and Queen will never live at Buckingham Palace, despite its £370 million refurbishment, as the monarch reveals his own £13 million tax bill.
Well, it looks like 200 years of royal tradition have come to an end. So the question for the public is this: are they happy with over £300 million of their money being used to resurface a royal office rather than a royal home?
Tapp dancing on ice. The furious Home Secretary wants Immigration Minister Mike Tapp sacked for writing an unauthorised article on as yet unannounced settlement policy. But so far the Prime Minister is keeping him in post.
The heat wave have sparked a huge wildfire in Derbyshire today, as temperatures could hit 38 degrees.
Well, this is the heatwave that keeps on breaking records. Today has just been announced as the hottest June day ever. 36.9 degrees recorded in Suffolk, as temperatures are keeping on rising.
Open it! Stay where you are! Open it! Stay there!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer.
A van driver came to the rescue as he offered a lift to armed police officers chasing a fleeing suspect. Would you do the same? Well, let's take a look at that video. Really astonishing. This hero van driver, hero van man, taking this police officer along on his chase. Let's have a look.
Open it! Stay where you are! Open it! Stay there!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer. Don't crash. Stop there! Don't move! Put your hands on your head! It's all right.
No worries.
Cheers for your help.
No problem.
What a hero. We'd love to find him. But, Nana, would you offer help to a police officer like that?
Oh, I would, absolutely. I'd love to be part of that. It's like a sort of movie. I'd be sort of Nambo. Oh, there I am. That's me.
Oh my God, that's Nana and Rambo, is that?
That's right.
Yeah.
What about you? We need to put you in it as well.
I need to. Where's my role? So can I have a supporting actor?
You can be my sidekick.
Oh, there we go. Oh, fantastic. How about that? Cracking. Well, let's see if we could both wait. Let's go. Oh, there we go. How's that? I can see the Oscars flooding in already. There we go. This is performatively supporting the police.
We're good. Oh, that's good. That's very sad. Yes, we are news. Sorry about that.
Now, the reason why we're showing this video quite so much is we really do want to find this hero van man. Now, if you know who he is, if you think you might know who he is, or indeed if you are him yourself, then please do get in touch with us here at GB News. That's the email address gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories today became the UK's hottest June day on record, with 36.9 degrees recorded, beating Thursday's highest temperature of 36.7 degrees in Somerset, the Met Office has said. The forecaster adds that temperatures do continue to rise. A red warning remains in place until 9 p.m. Meanwhile, a wildfire broke out in Derbyshire amid the extreme heat wave. Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service says about 990 acres of land was affected by the fire, adding at present we're being supported by the Rapid Relief Team and have sufficient supplies to deal with the issue. King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024 and 2025, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. Meanwhile, the King and Queen won't live at Buckingham Palace once the £370 million taxpayer-funded refurbishment work has been completed. The palace will continue to be the administrative headquarters of the monarchy, but the King's decided nearby Clarence House will remain his official home. The decision has been taken to allow greater public access to the landmark. The Home Office is attempting to use more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house about 3,750 if planning permission is granted. The government is also looking to extend the use of existing military sites in Crowborough and East Sussex until 2030 and Wethersfield and Essex beyond 2027. Shadow Illegal Immigration Minister Matt Vickers spoke to GB News.
The reality is moving these people around, whether it be in migrant hotels, whether it be in these former armed forces bases, whether it be in HMOs that are now springing up left, right and centre, that isn't solving the problem. The problem will only be solved when we start detaining and deporting people who arrive in this country illegally. We've now got a real plan in place to deliver that when Kemi gets into office, leaving the ECHR, enacting what was the Rwanda scheme of detaining and deporting those people who arrive illegally.
A Number 10 spokesperson says the Prime Minister has confidence in Mike Tabb, the Immigration Minister, after the Home Secretary called for Sakir to sack him. The government spokesperson adds the Prime Minister is taking advice in the usual way on what to do next. It comes after Shabana Mahmood said he'd written an article she believed to be out of step with immigration policy. Mike Tabb had responded by posting on X saying he won't be intimidated. Mr Tabb apparently penned an article without his boss's approval in which he demanded migrant care workers are given special exemptions from Mahmood's migration overhaul. And finally, the death toll in Venezuela has risen to 589 after 2 major earthquakes hit the capital Caracas on Wednesday. Thousands of people are injured and at least 50,000 people are reported missing. The UK government says it's providing £2 million to help the emergency response. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. It's back to Tom and Nambo.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more. or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes after 2 o'clock, and the Home Office has revealed plans to use more former military barracks to house thousands of asylum seekers as it steams ahead with plans to close down migrant hotels.
Well, planning permission is being sought at sites in Bicester, Oxfordshire, Barnham in Suffolk and Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire, as ministers seek to find space for almost 4,000 asylum seekers.
However, the plans are not without controversy. The Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, has already blasted the government for announcing the plans without outlining them in the House of Commons first, and local residents have raised concerns that they could end up being outnumbered by asylum seekers.
Yeah, does it look like the government's been trying to sort of rush this out on a Friday without proper scrutiny in the Commons?
No surprise there, is there?
Let's speak to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, on this. Charlie.
Well, Tom and Nana, to that particular point you've just made about this perhaps being rushed out or being seen by the press before politicians, I can share with you now that Karen Bradley, the chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, has written a letter to Alex Norris, the Border Security Minister, and she's asked him 12 questions about this announcement. And the first one is in reaction to what we heard from Sir Lindsay Hoyle in the Commons yesterday, asking, were the press told about this before politicians? Because that's the claim being made by the council in Braintree in Essex, which obviously affects the Wethersfield site. That barracks being extended to cover more asylum seekers. They will outnumber the number of local residents in that small village we visited before for GB News. The letter also asks if the Home Office has consulted with local stakeholders, including communities and the police, before the announcement was made to the press. We were informed of this yesterday afternoon, unable to reveal it until 10 o'clock last night, but politicians said they were told yesterday evening. There was a statement by Katie Lamb, a Tory MP and Shadow Minister in the House of Commons, raising this to their attention as well. And the last question of these 12, I think particularly interesting, from Karen Bradley, says 4 of the 5 sites that the government has announced since July 2024 have been in areas with opposition MPs and non-Labour councils. She says, what, if any, consideration does the government give to achieving political balance in terms of the local authority areas or constituencies in which large sites are located? It's an interesting question there from Karen Bradley, seeming to suggest that there might be some politicking behind the scenes about which areas are picked. This area where I'm in now in Bicester is, of course, represented by a Lib Dem. We heard from Callum Miller earlier today, the MP representing this area, saying that he did not approve of the plans, not only because he thought it was bad for local residents, but also he thought that military accommodation, he described it as a sort of an open air sort of isolation area, that would be bad for the people in that area as well. I can tell you that residents I've spoken to here in Bicester have expressed great concern about the sudden arrival of over 1,250 people to that disused military site. It's used by the Royal Logistics Corps and the Royal Engineers nearby. That area is a sort of an abandoned, disused logistical site, has been since the Second World War. But residents have told us about concerning behaviour in nearby villages when dealing with asylum seekers arriving, of course, many of them illegally in the small boat crossings across the Channel. Many asylum seekers here have been approved by other routes from Afghanistan, for example, but the vast majority of the 70,000 who are in other sites of accommodation around the country are from the small boat crossings that are illegal. About 20,000 remain in hotels, down from a peak of 53,000. The government also saying they've closed another 20 hotels recently and are now down to 170 across the country. The Conservative criticism of these plans, Tom and Nana, is that it does not deal with the root cause. They're not deporting people quickly enough. Alex Norris, the Border Security Minister, he says, look, this is what we've got. We're taking control of a difficult situation left to us by the last government. And maybe next week, when Shabana Mahmood's immigration and asylum bill is put through the Commons, they may get stronger rules and powers to deport those who fail their asylum. asylum claims. But of course, as you both know, those plans and those proposals are unpopular with some backbench Labour MPs.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charlie Peters. Really good to have your view on all this. Do you know what, though? What's the point, though? Because deport them to where? If they don't tell you what country they've come from, or they lie, or whatever, you can't send them back. You can't send them nowhere. We had Rwanda. They didn't do that. Why don't they just, and I hate this, but you might as well just do an amnesty now, because they literally let 100% of the people in. It's sort of 90-something%, isn't it?
I mean, it's near enough an amnesty, isn't it? Well, let's speak to Isabel Fekulak now, who's at Crowborough, I believe, for us. Isabel, thanks indeed for joining us. What's the scene there?
Well, good afternoon, Tom and Nana. Well, tensions were already very high here in Crowborough since the announcement at the end of last year that the military site here would be used to house asylum seekers. There have been weekly protests with residents gathering in high numbers trying to have their voices and their concerns heard. Well, speaking to many of those residents today, they say that they feel they've been ignored. Many of their concerns are, of course, about public safety, particularly safety for women and children, with 2 schools within walking distance of the camp. Other concerns are to do with house prices, and many residents have now started to refuse to pay their council tax, saying that the value of their houses has completely diminished. I spoke to another resident who wanted to stress the fact that the army barracks here were not vacant. In fact, they were used by army cadets. Now, he asked the question, how could the Prime Minister say that his #1 priority is defence and then take away a training facility from young people who are likely to end up going into the armed forces? Well, today the announcement that the Crowborough site will be used until 2030 and extended has not really held well here in the community. I've spoke to many residents this morning. Take a look at what some of them said.
I mean, we're all expecting that really to go across the country. You know, they've pledged that they want to shut all the hotels by the end of the term, 2027. Of course, they're just going to move the pieces from one place to another and do nothing about the real cause of the problem.
It comes as no surprise to me at all, Isabel. I was kind of expecting that anyway. The Home Office have constantly let us down, let the community down. Yeah, it does come as no surprise to me.
So not a surprise for residents, though still angered by it. And that first person you heard from there is also the chairman of a patrol group that go around the streets here saying that they can create a feeling of safety. He was urging other communities who are now going to have these sites on their doorsteps to do the same. In terms of protests that will still be happening weekly, they will continue to try and have their voices heard, though the Home Office has now extended the use of that site until 2030.
OK, well, Isabel, thank you very much indeed. Isabel Fekulak there, our reporter in Crowborough.
Right, we're now joined by Conservative MP for Wetherby and Eastingwold, Sir Alex Shelbrooke, MP. Alex, thank you very much for joining us. Is it a bit worrying, the direction that it sounds like the Labour government are going, where they are politicising the location of these migrant camps, so using ones that are not in their own constituencies but in other constituencies run by other parties? In your constituency, in fact.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's a few things to be said, actually. I think, first of all, let's get back to brass tacks as to why we're closing the hotels. It was because they were causing problems in the local community. People were upset about that. And the government said, well, we'll move them to military sites. But I think people have the impression that moving to a military site is a contained site, and it simply isn't. Linton-on-Ouse, the village they want to move to RAF Linton-on-Ouse, is a village of about 500 people with the village integrated into the site. People won't be restricted on the RAF base. They'll be allowed to move around. We're expecting at least 1,200 to 1,300 people as the starting point. And that's, what, 3 times, getting close, 1,500, getting close to 3 times the population of a village which doesn't doesn't have a shop, a village which is in, rural Yorkshire countryside. But crucially, and I think this is a really important point, is that last time it was brought forward as a proposal by the last Conservative government, and work was done by my predecessor and the local councillor and the parish council to show why it was technically not feasible. And we've also, I've asked questions. Northern Power Grid have said we can't supply the electricity that would be needed. It would need outside generators. Yorkshire Water have said that the upgrades they did to the sewage system couldn't cope with this much coming in, so you'd probably be looking at effluent tankers to come in and out. Some of the bridges involved in getting to that village have a 7.5-tonne weight limit off it. I've been informed today, as somebody who actually was part of the closing down of the base, that the drains were concreted in. So we are talking about millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of pounds to use a site that actually will create just the same problems as the hotels does, but rather than a couple of hundred, we're now talking 12 to 1,500.
The site's not suitable because of this. Then they have a list of things that will make it unsuitable and all. They have to go somewhere. I'm with you, though. I think they need to be contained. So whatever site you put these people on, if they are contained within that space, then nobody would really complain, and then we'd work out whether they're allowed to stay in this country, and then they'd be released if they can and sent back to God knows where. We never send anyone back, but in theory, it would be a good idea.
So it doesn't, again, as the party has said, it doesn't address that root problem. And at the moment, it would be a real deterrent if they said, you're not moving into the community. Look, we know that there are people coming across, claiming their children, and then they say all these children disappear from the hotels. They're not disappearing. They're coming across, they're older than they say, and they're just walking out of the hotels and going into crime gangs. We know full well the sort of people who are coming across the channel. Let's remember that we take part in an immigration system where we do take refugees through the UN who have been properly processed. This country doesn't shut its doors, but this is illegal immigration. And one of the deterrents at the starting point has to be that you will be contained until you are processed. You are choosing to come here. Well, this is what you're going to face when you get here. Greece are doing this. And Greece exists within the European Union and the ECHR. So don't tell me that that it's illegal to do it, because other countries are doing it.
Well, it is illegal under British law, under the current law that we operate under. Of course, the Conservative Party was in government until 2 years ago. It did have the opportunity to change that law, along with many others, and it chose not to.
Absolutely, and I think Kemi Badenoch has been absolutely crystal clear on this. About a year ago, she was very clear and said, look, it got wrong under the last Conservative government, but her leadership is taking things in a very different direction. She did a close analysis over 3 months, hired in senior lawyers to look at what the consequences of staying or leaving the ECHR was, and she came to a conclusion, having been very balanced on what she would do, that it was the best thing to leave the ECHR. Crucially, that meant the parliamentary party fully back her, no matter what their early opinion was, because they know that the analytical work has been done and it has been shown that this is path forward. And if our courts, quite frankly, our campaigning judges in the Supreme Court that Tony Blair set up so that he could effectively keep his own control over the constitution of this country, it gives our judges a cover saying, oh, well, the ECHR, this is how we've interpreted it. And as Kemi said, ECHR is one step. Then we have to tackle our courts. And quite frankly, my personal view is that the abolition of the Supreme Court is overdue. It's been there 20 years. And we go back to the Lord Chancellor's Department, which worked perfectly well for 800 years.
All right. Well, listen, Sir Alec Shelbrooke, MP, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your views. I just think it's just all ridiculous. Perfectly sensible, decent people, unable to work out that you shouldn't really allow people that you don't know into your country and allow them to roam freely because you don't know who they are. It's as basic as that.
And the fact that they come here and for up to 2 years or however long it takes for their things to be heard, they've got nothing to do. They've got literally nothing to do in this country. Which then leads them down to twiddling their thumbs or worse.
I can think of jobs they could do.
Well, we ban them from having any job.
Well, no, within their own thing. They could have things within their self-contained community.
Yes, yeah.
They'd run schools and all that sort of thing. They make themselves useful.
Well, Border Security and Asylum Minister Alex Norris said that we promised to close every asylum hotel and hand them back to communities, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes, 20 more hotels have closed and the hotel numbers have more than halved since their peak. Instead, we're moving asylum seekers into ex-military sites that are a far cry from the hotels the last government left us with.
Continued, this is a system being brought back under control and we will not stop until the job is done.
Right, let's do something fun. The Great British Giveaway. No, not this country. We're not giving that away yet. But it is the final week. You could win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash. Here are the details.
A very warm welcome from Paphos in Cyprus. I am here at the Imperial Island Resort, where we are literally counting down the hours and the minutes until the end of our summer giveaway. You could be winning £76,543.21. Wow. Just think about what you could spend all of that amazing cash on. Would you put a brand new car in the driveway? Would you come on holiday somewhere like here? Maybe you would treat your family or your friends, or perhaps you'd just sit back, relax and take any of those financial pressures away. Remember, this amount of cash is completely tax-free, so you will receive every single penny. But what are you waiting for? You've got to be in it to win it, because lines close at 4 p.m. today.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes, not fit for a king. The King and Queen will never live in Buckingham Palace despite its £370 million refurbishment, as the monarch reveals his £13 million tax bill. But after the break...
Tapp dancing on ice. The furious Home Secretary warns Immigration Minister Mike Tapp, sacked for writing an unauthorised article on as yet unannounced settlement policy. But so far, the Prime Minister is keeping him in post.
Well, stay tuned, all of that and much more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 award-winning news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 2:30. Now, a row has broken out between Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood and Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer over the future of the Immigration Minister, Mike Tabb.
Yes, it was after Mike wrote an article for The Times calling for foreign care workers to be exempt from Mahmood's plans to change visa rules for migrants already living in the UK.
Well, this morning, a defiant Mike Tabb took to Twitter, despite being in San Francisco, and claimed that all he had done is put my views across on a policy I've been working on for months.
And it looks like the Prime Minister is actually siding with Mr Tabb, as Number 10 confirmed today that the Prime Minister has confidence in Mike Tabb and still believes that he and Mahmood can continue to work together at the Home Office.
Well, it sounds all a little confusing, so let's clear it up with our political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Olivia, what's going on here?
Well, it is a bit of a bizarre story. Essentially what happened is Mike Tabb, who's an immigration minister at the Home Office, that means that he works under Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, wrote an opinion piece for The Times where he asked the Home Office, where he sort of pled with his own department to make foreign care workers exempt from Shabana Mahmood's hardline immigration policies, which will extend the amount of time you have to be here to have indefinite leave to remain. That's a policy that's going forward in the House next week. Now, Shabana Mahmood was, quite understandably, I think, furious about this. Mike Tabb appeared to be freelancing, writing his own pieces when, of course, he is a minister under her. Now, it's not quite clear why Shabana Mahmood had the issue with this specifically. Was it because this was something the Home Office is already considering and Mike Tabb is trying to make it look like his own policy, or was it because he was going against what Shabana Mahmood's bill is trying to achieve? Why Mike Tabb did it is, I think, quite clear. He is looking for a position in Andy Burnham's government. Shabana Mahmood, too, is pretty keen, it seems, to hang on to her job in the Home Office. She has made clear that she is a supporter of Andy Burnham's. And obviously, this is something which can only happen in the dying days of a government. Keir Starmer might be in office, but as we so like to say, he's not really in power. This enormous and very public spat between two of his ministers is breaking out right in front of him. What's he doing about it? Well, as you say, it seems as though he's taking Mike Tabb's side. So far, even though Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has called for the Immigration Minister to be sacked, again, very, very publicly through close allies, Keir Starmer at the moment is saying that Mike Tabb has his full confidence, although I was at that lobby briefing earlier and it does sound as though the matter is being investigated. The other interesting nugget is that Keir Starmer has said that he has no concerns about Shabana Mahmood and Mike Tabb working together in the Home Office. That may seem strange to some of our viewers. It's essentially like if my boss had said that he had no confidence in me, and then my ultimate boss said, never mind, these two can all work together and it will be absolutely fine. But obviously this is far more important because this is our immigration policy that we're talking about. It does feel like the zombie days of government, ministers trying to jostle for position, trying to show that they're doing something important to the next Prime Minister very, very publicly in the papers, and the current Prime Minister unwilling or unable to do anything about it.
Goodness me. Olivia, reading this article from Mike Tabb in The Times, it did seem like he was sort of saying, this is a really important policy I am working on. We're months into it, but it will take months more to complete. It almost read like a letter that said, please, Mr. Burnham, Can I keep my job?
I think definitely we can read it as that. And this is the problem that the current Prime Minister is having. None of his ministers are very interested in whether Keir Starmer thinks that they are doing a good job. Mike Tapp wouldn't have written a piece in a national newspaper without the permission of the Home Secretary if he believed that the Prime Minister had full control over his government. But Mike Tapp, like Shabana Mahmood, is looking to the weeks ahead. He's looking to who the next Prime Minister will be and who will get jobs in his cabinet. So for the next few weeks, I think we're going to see quite a lot more of this, and the current Prime Minister not really being able or not really being willing to do very much about it.
Or maybe he's not bothered, he's trying to get out of all of this. Thank you very much, Olivia Utley. Really good to talk to you. With his shameful record of achievement as his Prime Minister, it's embarrassing, and then they're all fighting. I mean, isn't it just that Shabana Mahmood is trying to say, well, it was my idea, it's not his idea, it's me? Isn't that kind of part of the thing?
I think it's more that she wants to just control all of the output of the Home Office, and I mean,
I don't blame her for that.
She's the Home Secretary, but it does show that actually I've spoken to lots of former Home Secretaries before, and sometimes they complain about not being able to control their department. Well, here's an example of the Home Secretary wanting a minister sacked and not being able to sack a minister. I mean, a Home Secretary not in control of her department by definition.
I think it's a bit harsh sacking him over that, but anyway, she will know more than that. But this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Open it! Stay where you are! Open it! Stay there!
Get back, get back. Go, 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 go. I'm going, I'm going. Go, go, go. Cheers, buddy. Follow that police officer.
Well, a van driver came to the rescue as he offered a lift to armed police officers chasing a fleeing suspect. Would you do the same?
Absolutely. All that and much more to come. You're with Britain's #1 news channel. First, your latest news headlines.
Thank you. The top stories today provisionally became the UK's hottest June day on record, with 36.9 degrees recorded, beating Thursday's highest temperature of 36.7 in Somerset, the Met Office says. The forecaster adds that temperatures continue to rise, and red warnings in place until 9 p.m. King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024-2025, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 for UK taxpayers. A Number 10 spokesperson says the Prime Minister has confidence in Mike Tapp, the Immigration Minister, after the Home Secretary called for Sir Keir Starmer to sack him. The government spokesperson adds the Prime Minister is taking advice in the usual way on what to do. It comes after Shabana Mahmood said he'd written an article she believed to be out of step with immigration policy. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, there's more news with Katie Bowen at 3 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thank you, Tatiana. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, not fit for a king. Well, the King and Queen will never live at Buckingham Palace, despite its almost £400 million refurbishment, as the monarch reveals his own £13 million tax bill.
All of that and much more to come with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Amber and red extreme heat warnings remain in force for Friday. Some parts of the UK, most notably East Anglia and the South East, will see the hottest day of the week, with humidity also an important factor to consider. Further west, it's still hot, but not as hot as it has been the last couple of days. And we've seen some thundery rain move through overnight, those thunderstorms now clearing into the North Sea. There's still some outbreaks of heavy rain across parts of central and northern Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps some lightning and hail later. And these thunderstorms could develop across the north of England, southern Scotland, with some dramatic lightning and hail. accompanying them. Further south, very hot indeed across many parts of England and Wales. Wales in the southwest, a little bit fresher compared with Thursday, but it's hottest for East Anglia and the southeast, where some serious impacts could result from this day-by-day accumulation of the very hot and humid weather. Across Scotland, outbreaks of heavy rain, some lightning and some hail expected through the evening and overnight. And we're going to see a lot of sunshine continuing across many parts of England and Wales, but some cloud pushing into West Wales as well as the southwest of England, leading on to something a little bit cooler overnight, but still very warm for a June night. And then we've got these thunderstorms to watch out for, moving up from northern France, potentially affecting the southeast of England. Further heavy rain at times for Scotland and Northern Ireland, although some gaps in between the rain. And it's a very warm night to come, with temperatures up at 20 or 21 Celsius. Now, we'll see a lot more cloud across the north and west as we begin Saturday. Best of the sunshine towards East Anglia and the southeast. It's another very warm day, with temperatures here reaching 32 or 33 Celsius. That could spark some lively thunderstorms later on. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Traffic is slow on the M54 westbound between junctions 2 and 3 due to a vehicle fire, with one lane closed and delays expected until 6:15 this evening. On the A27 westbound in Brighton and Hove, a broken down vehicle has closed one lane, causing 10 minutes of delay. In Rochdale, the M62 eastbound has delays due to a broken down vehicle. The road is blocked in both directions on the A86 south of Newtonmore because of an incident. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway and the Elizabeth Line face major disruption due to hot weather affecting routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. 39 minutes after 2 o'clock. And King Charles has become the first British monarch to reveal his tax bill, paying £12.9 million in 2024 to 25, placing him among the UK's top 100 taxpayers.
Well, the bill also disclosed that the King and Queen will not live at Buckingham Palace once the £370 million taxpayer-funded refurbishment work has completed, and will instead remain at Clarence House.
Well, joining us now is GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker to tell us more. Cameron.
Yes, well, quite a big bill for a house which isn't going to be a home, it's going to be an office. I suppose on the one hand, you know, it's still going to remain Monarchy HQ, Buckingham Palace. It's still going to host investitures, garden parties, host visiting heads of states as well. But the King's just not going to physically lay his head down there to sleep. Or he's definitely most likely not going to do that. Prince William probably won't either. He calls Forest Lodge, the 8-bedroom mansion in Windsor, his forever home. The question is, for the public, is 370 or 369 million pounds of my money over a 10-year period worth it? So they said at the very start of all of this 10 years ago that the palace is in desperate need of refurbishment. It's got a catastrophic fire risk and a catastrophic flood risk from old pipes and old electricity cables dating back to just after the Second World War. Regardless, if you want to keep that building as a focal point in British society and a world-famous building, they had to update it.
But it's 37 million then, over 10 years, so 37 million a year, you're saying?
No, 369 million pounds over 10 years.
Yeah, so that's 37 million a year?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that I would say that's cheap at the price. Given the tourism that comes to this country as a result of the royal family, and given that if you have a beautiful building like that, you'd have to upkeep it anyway, even if the King didn't live in it. If he didn't live in it, we'd still keep it as a museum or something like that. We wouldn't knock it down, would we? Or something. Well, you know, it'd just end up being a tourist attraction, so we'd still have to pay to refurbish it.
Exactly, and of course the King's soft power can't be underestimated. decimated. I mean, I went with him to the United States for a state visit where he saw President Trump, and off the back of that, President Trump lifted whiskey tariffs on Scottish whiskey, bringing millions of pounds into the Scottish economy and, by extension, the UK economy. And he said on the record, only King Charles could have persuaded me to do that. And that's just one example as to the kind of soft power the king can wield in order to bring billions of pounds also into the UK economy. The big tech deal that was signed off the back of the state visit, again, an example of his soft power. So that money is small by comparison compared to the cost of the monarchy. It just depends if people like tradition or not, because it's 200 years of tradition kind of ended now because Queen Victoria first lived there.
First built for Queen Charlotte, I think, the wife of George III. So there's another American link.
Yes, there's Buckingham House.
As Buckingham House?
Yes.
And probably without the big grand frontage that was added on later.
The grand frontage was added 10, 20 years after Queen Victoria moved in 1837.
That's very Victorian.
Yeah. Yes.
Explains the statue outside. But isn't it the case that lots of senior royals have always not been the biggest fan of Buckingham Palace as a place to live? Sort of very, very central London, feeling a bit like a goldfish bowl. They much prefer being in Windsor.
Yes, it is a little bit like living in the office. I mean, I've been lucky in this job. I have gone in several times, and it doesn't really feel very homely. Of course, it's very grand and luxurious. It's a palace, and I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that the royal family are hard done by living in Buckingham Palace. Far from it. But there are a lot of offices, a lot of staff, there's a lot of rabbit warrens and corridors, whereas nearby Clarence House for the King and Queen, understandably, is much more like a London townhouse. And for the late Queen as well, Balmoral, her absolute love in the Scottish summers, and indeed Windsor Castle, although it's still kind of a working royal residence and the biggest castle, oldest occupied castle in the world, there's sections of it which would feel quite homely, whereas Buckingham Palace is just kind of one big mass of corridors.
Yeah, it's a bit weird as well. In fact, if you lived there, you would feel like you were in the middle of a sort of rotating, because there's lots of traffic around it, and everyone goes, it's too open. I'm quite glad that it feels too targeted. It's so specific. It's there on its own, surrounded by all the sort of roads around it.
It's a roundabout, really, isn't it?
It is.
Imagine living in the middle of a roundabout.
It's a roundabout.
I should just say very briefly before I end that a spokesperson for the King has told GB News that the palace will continue in every traditional way to be the beating heart of the monarchy, and I also understand that the King wants it to be for public good rather than his own private use. So I suspect it's going to be opened up far more to the public.
I like the way he's phrased that. In other words, can't stand the place. I need to leave and go to a nice little townhouse.
You'll still work there.
Yeah.
Well, Cameron Walker, thank you very much indeed.
All right, well, stay with us if you just tuned in. Welcome on board. 44 minutes after 2 o'clock, and some breaking news. A plane has crashed into a 109-storey building in China, sparking a major evacuation.
Yes, the tower in the centre of Beijing was hit by a small plane at around 6 o'clock local time. 2 of the building's windows were shattered by the impact that caused the aircraft to completely break apart. Well, this shocking footage shows fragments of the plane plummeting to the ground.
Thick smoke was also seen rising from the building's ground floor, where the wreckage was scattered. The number of casualties remains unclear. We will, of course, bring you more as we have it here on GB News.
It's worth emphasising that this appears to have been a small plane and it doesn't look like there's catastrophic damage to the building, despite the impact.
All right, well, let's check out the forecast. But on today's show, we've been talking about the heat wave, which has sparked a huge wildfire in Derbyshire. Its temperatures could hit 38 degrees, but is advice from politicians helping?
We're having COBRA meetings at the official level to monitor what's going on, give the appropriate advice.
Well, now, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, or perhaps given the temperature here, if you're searching for somewhere a bit cooler, well, here's the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to the weekend, and the historic heat across some parts of Europe will continue. Over more southern areas, it's not as exceptionally hot here, but nonetheless, it will feel pretty hot with all the sunshine around. Worth bearing in mind, we have high humidity as well, and with the hot and sunny weather, that will allow for a few showers to develop, and if they do, they could turn heavy and also thundery. But generally, the theme is for lots of dry, sunny weather to come as we go through into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
But there's a huge amount of psychological evidence. There's lots of theories about when people make decisions and follow them with actions, their behaviour becomes consistent with the choice they made. So if you get married, you're more likely to see each other with rose-tinted spectacles, that kind of thing. The signal value of marriage is absolutely huge. I was talking to a young couple who are newly engaged just the other day, and they said it was amazing how it actually changed the way that they felt about their relationship. So it does provide extra security, and doing it in front of your friends makes a huge difference as well. It holds you to account. So there's a huge psychology behind the act of marriage. So it would be weird if there wasn't any effect at all. I found that your family background, so your age, your education, income, affects about half of your chance of staying together.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The art world has lost its darling, probably the most respected, celebrated, influential artist of the 20th and 21st century. And as you say, career spanning 7 decades, whether you're looking at his portraits or his Californian swimming pools or his spectacular Yorkshire landscapes, he made art for the people. The art world can be a rather snobby place, which is unfortunate at times, but he made art for the people. If you think about the portraits, the people that he painted, whether it be Mr. and Mrs. Ossie Clark, the fashion designer, and Percy the cat, or Harry Styles, or a portrait of his carer.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, I'm going to try and explain what SpaceX is. It's set to become one of the most valuable companies in the world. But it's not just about rockets. Everyone will be aware. OK, well, it would be really nice if Elon Musk could could help us out with our tech here, because I'm trying to draw a rocket and we're not able to. What is going on? I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid our very own. Let's see. No, we're not. I'll try and explain what's going on with SpaceX without any visual aids. How disappointing! It's 3 companies really. It's a rocket company, it's a communications company, and it's an AI company, all in one. It controls 84% of the commercial launch market in this country.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. The heat record has been broken again for a 3rd day in June, with temperatures of 36.9 degrees Celsius being recorded in Suffolk.
Well, the Met Office has warned that temperatures are still rising.
GB News' national reporter Will Godley is basking in that sunshine right now. He joins us now, or perhaps he's sweltering in there. Well,
I think I'm melting. Melting, Nana, is the word you're looking for. It is very, very hot here. 34 degrees in central London, but I'm sparing a thought for those people in Suffolk. As you say, 36.9 degrees recorded there. Of course, this heatwave has been record-breaking, and those temperatures, the Met Office saying, only rising. This is a record that, up until this week, hadn't been broken for 50 years. And now, for the 3rd time this week, the June temperature record has been smashed, this time in Suffolk. And I was down in Brighton on the beach back on Wednesday, on the first day of this red extreme heat warning, and the atmosphere compared to then is very different today here in central London. Back then on Wednesday, people making the most of this hot weather, sunbathing, enjoying swimming in the sea. Today, from speaking to people here, the impression I'm getting is people are very much over the novelty of this heat wave and trying to cope in the heat rather than enjoy the heat. Take a look at what people have been telling me a little bit earlier on.
London's not a nice place to be when it's so hot. It's just way too sticky, and the heat has no place to escape. It's unbearable at every level, frankly. So the answer is, no, it's not great.
Too much.
Is it?
Yeah, can't sleep. Yeah, it's just overpowering.
Too much. Well, we're not used to it, are we? That's the problem with it.
I do love the heat, but it's just hard not being able to cool down because there's no air conditioning. So the tube stations have been really tricky.
So people there just telling me how they feel London just isn't equipped to deal with this kind of heat. You can see the difference compared to Brighton Beach when people are sunbathing. Here, people just lying in the shade wanting to cool down rather than get a tan on. But it's in the data as well just how difficult people finding the heat in London. London Ambulance Service saying their calls up 50% yesterday compared to a normal day in June. That was 50% for life-threatening calls, and the number of calls they had for cardiac arrest yesterday up 30% compared to a normal day in June. So clearly the data shows people really struggling in this heat. The advice from them is for people not to exercise outdoors today. We've by and large not seen people do that, and also something you might want to bear in mind tonight and tomorrow night, have a pint of water in between a pint of beer. That's the advice from the ambulance service to stay hydrated.
Well, you'll be running to the toilet. Anyway, Will Godley, thank you very much if you do it that way. Some lovely messages coming in. John said, Tom and Anna, tongue-in-cheek, use Buckhouse for asylum seekers. Loads of rooms. Love it. Love it.
Well, I suppose it does have big gates.
Yes.
You could have your policy of detention there. Well, that's it from us here on Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more to come, of course. First, you're going to get a weather forecast, which it's going to say it's hot. And then Martin Daubney's up. Don't go anywhere.
Enjoy.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do still have a red extreme heat warning across parts of the southeast today, with an amber one going out for eastern areas tomorrow. It's because, well, whilst there is fresher air coming into parts of the country through the next 24 hours, eastern areas are clinging on to that hot air, and residual heat means it's going to stay uncomfortably hot and humid for a little while yet. Another big talking point, however, the thunderstorm risk across northern parts of England, Northern Ireland through this evening, and across the bulk of Scotland overnight. Some torrential downpours, frequent lightning and hail. They could cause some problems. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, just some showers pushing into parts of the southeast through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Still warm and humid here, temperatures staying above 20 Celsius, perhaps slightly fresher, more comfortable towards more northern and western parts. Then tomorrow morning, a bit of a cloudy start across much of Scotland. Some glimmers of sunshine across the northeast perhaps, but yes, a lot of cloud, a few outbreaks of rain, not as heavy, not as thundery as what we're going to see through the end of the day and through much of the night. Across Northern Ireland, a few shower bursts of rain, particularly towards the west, perhaps brighter further east, and down the western side of England and Wales, bit of cloud, bit of rain further east. Largely sunny, some decent sunshine, but a few showers perhaps lingering across parts of East Anglia in particular. Through Saturday then, we are going to stick with a bit of a northwest-southeast split, so northern and western parts staying pretty cloudy. There will be outbreaks of rain at times. Further south and east, largely dry, largely sunny, but a few showers will start to push into some southeastern parts later on in the day. It is still going to be pretty hot across some eastern parts of England as well. Temperatures not as high as they have been, but nonetheless getting into the low 30s Celsius. A bit more comfortable, a bit fresher towards the north and west. There is more showery rain to watch out for through the end of the day tomorrow, particularly in the southeast. Here it could turn heavy, maybe even thundery at times. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
From the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos, and it's the final week to see how you could win big in time for summer. Someone has to win our stunning cash prize of £76,543.21. Just don't miss out as lines close on the 26th of June.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/.